Hey, what up, jerks? Welcome. Well. What a day today. Yuri, Buchanan on the stand all day getting cross-examined. It's raining out in Massachusetts right now. It's kind of chilly and cold, so this is a perfect night for the show that we're going to do tonight. I haven't done too many shows this week. I've been dealing with some things that eventually I may be able to talk about more, but tonight is about Karen retrial. We had the retrial. It's underway. We've got the witnesses, prosecution, one after another. And today was Yuri Buchanan, the Massachusetts State Police. He's reading all those text messages. There's so much happening today. Even right now, there's news breaking about the buffer zone. That it looks like the lower court's going to have to reconsider the buffer zone, which is good news. Maybe I can actually do some reporting on the sidewalk without getting harassed by the Massachusetts State Police. The buffer zone was supposed to be about protesting, but they just basically did it to anyone who would put out a camera or an iPhone without court approval. So it looks like that might change, which is good news. We'll see what happens on that. Congratulations to Randazza and his crew, the attorneys that took that up. There's so much more going on. Microdot just dropped a great video. But we have the two great guests that you want to see tonight. I'm excited. I think we're on both channels. I know that we're on YouTube right now. On the Young Jerks, we're also on Carl Steinbeck's YouTube channel. So we're on both YouTube channels tonight. I just want to make the announcement before we bring up these two great guests. We're not doing any super chats for questions tonight. I'm going to read any super chats or Venmos at the end of the show after the guests are gone. If you have a question or comment for the guests tonight, the best way to get it through is just to leave a free comment. We're not charging tonight to read questions to the guests because there's so many of you here. There's no way we'd be able to read all the super chats. So your best way is basically to put a free comment or free question in the chat. That's the best way. If you want to support the show after or support Carl's channel, that's when you do the super chats. Is for the creators tonight. Thank you so much. And with that, let's bring up the great guest tonight. I'm excited. This is going to be phenomenal. This is a first time these two together on my channel. I think it might be the first time they're meeting. They're both former prosecutors, former ADAs. They're both now criminal defense attorneys. They're two of the biggest guests that come on the show to talk about Karen Read. One of them has his own channel, Carl Steinbeck, I mentioned. Definitely subscribe, follow him if you're not. Both of them are on Twitter as well. Throw on the hot takes. If you're not following them both on Twitter, you should do so. Bederow Law on Twitter. I'm excited to have them on the show tonight. This is great. I know you are. Let's just bring them up and see what they thought about Yuri today. This is going to be great. Carl Steinbeck, attorney Carl Steinbeck, welcome back to the show. And
Hello.
attorney Mark Bederow.
How are you?
Great. You guys are just meeting for the first time tonight?
We
Right.
are. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Mark.
Name here.
I love this too when I bring you together, like bring new guests together like this, because like the first couple of minutes backstage, you guys were just chatting, and I was just sitting there like, I just love it because I know the audience is gonna eat this up tonight. Where do you guys want to start? I guess I'll go to I don't know, flip a coin. We'll do it alphabetical first. Bederow. We'll go with Bederow first, and then Steinbeck. I keep saying, is it Steinbeck and Bederow, Bederow and Steinbeck tonight? Let's go B first, and we'll switch it up later. But tell us what you think about the testimony today, like about Yuri. I mean, that's the whole thing today. What did you think about Yuri?
Absolute disaster for the prosecution. And it hasn't even really started because the bad stuff hasn't even been hit on yet. That's the real important thing. Today was so bad for them. And he hasn't even been cross examined about his false testimony about inverted video. He hasn't been confronted with the text messages. And he hasn't been confronted with this, ridiculous failure to properly vouch your sneakers. But what happened today and what you saw a little bit of it yesterday was Brennan got exposed for trying to be cute. Okay. He wanted to really streamline the case and try to avoid the warts. And the warts are obviously Michael Proctor, the people in the house that he felt he didn't need. And what you've seen for the last day and a half is just masterful cross examination, absolutely masterful cross examination, which has exposed all the problems, not only in the prosecution's case, but in the credibility of multiple witnesses, and perhaps more importantly, the credibility of the prosecutor, which is not directly an issue, but when you're a juror, you need to trust the guy in the white hat who is supposed to lead you on a path to conviction. And what you saw today was Proctor get mentioned repeatedly, which is bad enough because they're not going to call him. But when you saw Buchanan just play games with what he knew about Proctor and go on for hours and hours with splitting hairs and being difficult and things, it's not credible. Okay. And the reality is the jury learned today that Proctor is the guy on this case, and they're trying to hide him from me. And then they're calling witnesses who are trying to deliberately mislead me about what this guy did. And it went on and on. And then beyond that, you saw other brilliant cross-examination, since Buchanan's going to be the guy because there is no Proctor, about the case itself. And I think, in my view, you saw a masterful examination about some of the other suspects that, for the third-party culprit that the defense wants to bring in, that the prosecution at this point clearly doesn't want to call: Higgins, Brian Albert primarily. And when you saw Allen systemically dismantle the problems with these people that the jury didn't even know. I mean, you have to keep in mind, they didn't talk about Proctor in their opening statement. They didn't talk about Higgins. They didn't talk about the waterfall video. They didn't talk about the text messages. And there comes a point when you're a juror, you scratch your head and you say, why wouldn't the people who are asking me to convict a woman of murder simply tell me what the case is about, good or bad, and go from there? And this was a huge miscalculation by Brennan. We talked about this a week or two ago. When you're a prosecutor, you've got to show it all. And the argument should be, look, Proctor's a bad guy. It's an issue, but it doesn't matter, and here's why. But in the Hank Brennan book, it's just hide it under the table and hope it doesn't come back to bite me, along with Higgins, along with Brian Albert. And I think they all got exposed today. And, we'll talk about that in detail, but in a macro sense, this was bad for them today.
It was not good. Very bad. Definitely bad. What did you think, Carl?
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything Mark just said. And it was just a complete smash mouth disaster day. This Sergeant Buchanan, his demeanor is such that he looks like he doesn't even want to be there. He's sort of reclining back. I mean, he's just like not even taking this case serious. I've never seen a serious case, especially one with murder, where you have I guess he's trying to be the de facto lead investigator on the case, but he doesn't even know enough details of the case, right? He didn't even get up to speed on the case. And you're talking about a fallen officer. This is his murder case you're trying to prosecute. And you just sit there and just have this smug, defiant, I could care less type of attitude about the whole thing. It's just really shocking. It's hard to believe this is really a true case. And so I think, Mark, you're alluding to this. As a prosecutor, you have to have credibility with the jury, because if you don't have credibility, you've already lost. And so you got to take in, whether it's warts or cancer or missing arms or legs, whatever the case is, you have to have credibility for the jury. I mean, number one, you should be doing that anyway, because the public is entrusting you to do the right thing and to have justice, right? So you should automatically have that as like your foundational building blocks to start a case on. And then you have to have the courage and conviction to call it like it is. And if you got a case that's got just nothing but massive reasonable doubt all over the case, then you need to have the courage to stand up and say, you know what, this is not going to trial. We're not going to do this. And you have to keep your mind open for all the other avenues of possible explanation for what happened that night. And as we saw from the sergeant here, he had no other interest in doing anything other than like this, wrapping it up, sticking a bow on it, and accusing Karen Reed of doing this. And then so the ongoing deception, lies, and just complete indifference to finding out more about the case. It's just really insulting to the jury to sit there and prop up witnesses like this and the case keeps getting worse and worse. And we, like Mark was saying, we haven't even seen the worst of the worst yet in terms of who could possibly be the third-party culprits. And so there's already this, I think what was good today also is we saw the motive now for the Higgins character, because we otherwise would have thought, well, why would somebody in the house want to have any interest in, having somebody die in the house or outside the house? But now the prosecution, the reason they didn't call this kind of evidence to light, because it makes them look bad, because Hank realizes this is really bad for motive, and that's why he didn't bring these texts in, right? So we heard text after text after text, and it's sort of like introducing sort of like a love triangle type of situation. Not that Karen thought she was going to, this is going to explode into that, but from the mannerisms, also the waterfall we had from Higgins, it looked like there was going to be some kind of showdown. Not necessarily a violent one, but anything's possible. And as I've been saying, a fight can break out in a millisecond. You don't need to have, like the judge ruled on third-party culprit, you don't need to have some long-standing, long drawn-out gun battle, ongoing hatred that's provable in a court of law. A fight can break out, just like in a bar. A fight can break out in a second, and then next thing you know, you got dead bodies on the floor. So I think in this particular case, the truth is being hidden by the prosecutor. And I think the jury is, if they don't get it by now, I don't know what to say about it, but it's going to continue on that track. So I'm very pleased with how it's going for Karen Reed and her team so far.
If you're the prosecutor in a case like this, I mean, we say this all the time and it sounds cliche, but you have to wear the white hat. You've got to be the trustworthy one. You're supposed to be the good guy. You're supposed to say, I can prove a case and here's how I'm going to do it. The problem with Hank Brennan is that he comes off as a used car salesman. Okay. He doesn't open on Michael Proctor, which is that's a choice. And what does the defense do? They tell you this guy's a cancer. If you remember in their opening, he's a metastasizing cancer. They bring you all these details about certain people. And then as the case goes on, you find out the prosecution's just going to try to throw all these witnesses and all these issues down the memory hole. It's not going to matter. And they're going to go all in with Buchanan. And again, that's a choice. But if you're going to do that, you might want to prepare the guy. And one of the most stunning thing to me is that this witness clearly was not prepared. Okay. And that's just the reality. And that goes on many levels. He wasn't prepared. You saw it yesterday. He couldn't talk about vouchered evidence. I mean, this is like lawyer 101, right? Show the witness the exhibits, make sure you have it. They screwed that up, right? Then you have this guy who's going to be a proxy for Proctor. That's essentially what they're going to do. And what does he do? Does he come out and say Proctor is what he is and whatever, we did this? No. You get Buchanan, who's going to die on the hill about Proctor having a prominent role. He wouldn't even call him having a major role. Well, he didn't do 50% plus one. That's what he said. And he wouldn't, and he just argued over every minute point and just over everything. So Buchanan looks like a disingenuous, just disgraceful either liar or dissembler who looks like he's protecting Proctor. He makes the entire agency that he works for, the state police, look like a joke. But more importantly, he makes Brennan look like a joke. And they haven't even started the real cross-examination. The jury does not even know that this witness perjured himself regarding the inverted video. And the reason they don't know is because Brennan doesn't tell them. He doesn't even flag the issue. So as bad as it is now, it's going to be a hell of a lot worse come, noon Monday, after a couple hours of this, where all this other stuff comes in. And this is the kind of thing that can completely just torpedo the whole case. There's no credibility behind this. And he's not going to call Proctor. He's not going to call Higgins. He's not going to call Brian Albert. He's not going to call Tully. And if you're a juror, you just sit there and you say, why are you not telling me these things? And if you're not telling me these things, why do I believe anything that you are telling me if there is not substantial proof to establish it? And as you've seen so far, Have they presented a single witness yet who has been compelling and has not been damaged? Certainly a material witness. And I would suggest to you, no. Kerry Roberts got damaged. Both of their cell phone experts were damaged. Jennifer McCabe, damaged. Buchanan is just a train wreck and still going. This is a disaster for them. And, you know, the trolls online will tell you it's not, but if you kind of check that noise, this is not good at all.
I saw one of the trolls actually admitting that Buchanan was a train wreck today. I was shocked. One of the worst ones that we don't know who it is. It's been a lot of speculation on Twitter, but one of those accounts actually did admit it, which was shocking to me. That's how bad it was. Going back to both of you on this, because why? What, like, for me, I'm watching this. I thought Brennan was going to be better. Now I'm watching it. I'm saying, geez, Brennan's probably actually worse than Lally for some of the reasons you said. Like, number one, the lack of preparation just for the jury. Never mind for the witness. Like, how long does it take to prepare Buchanan? And I'm asking a lot of questions here, but like, why was he so like refusing to just admit basic things that were obvious? He was so argumentative, like in terms of, it wasn't like, Jennifer McCabe nastiness, but it was just, yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna speculate. Like, there was so much of that where it was just obvious what was going on, and he was just not cooperating. Why is this witness so bad? What's going on here?
Arrogance, smugness. I mean, you have a witness in a murder case testifying, leaning on the rail. Okay. And he did that the first trial too. I remember it specifically. There's just an arrogance and a smugness, and he's smiling, he's smirking, and he doesn't even realize that he's getting destroyed. I don't even think he sees it. I don't think he's dumb. I think he's arrogant, he's smug, and just can't read the room in terms of what's going on. I don't think he, some people are commenting he seems really dumb. I don't think he's dumb at all.
Yeah, I don't either.
He's defiant. He needles. He fights for the sake of fighting. But above and beyond anything, he's arrogant. He's biased, and he's illustrative of what people think the Massachusetts State Police are. And if this is going to be your one police witness to give to the jury as, again, an illustration of the great police work in this case, then you've already lost, because this guy is a disaster.
What do you think, Attorney Carl Steinbeck? What do you think about all this?
The recurring theme I see is that, if you compare Brennan to Lally at least was trying to bring all the witnesses, bring all the garbage and trash heap that he had on this case. And it was very irritating to him listening, talking about how, what if anything. I got so tired of listening to that. But at least, and he objected all the time too, which I can't stand when prosecutors do that. Even if I'm in a prosecution role, supervising somebody else, I would never want to see a prosecutor acting that way, as we've seen from these two prosecutors. But the thing is, what Brennan has more skills at doing is actually hiding the ball, keeping the truth out. And I don't think Lally has those kind of instincts on how to do that. And so what you really see from Brennan is this guy knows how to like be so slick. And then what you'll never see, I don't think, anywhere else in America, is that this is like the worst combination you could ever see. A prosecutor that is this, comes across this shady and underhanded, and then you have a judge that just rubber stamps and just tramples over all these constitutional rights that Mark and I are used to never seeing happen, just over and over and over and over again. Every day there's like, wow, it's like such jaw-dropping things happen with this judge, and it's just like you're just incentivizing him to keep doing this. And so, I mean, in the end, I keep saying that this will no way survive. If she gets convicted of anything, this will no way survive any kind of appeal. No appeal would survive, even if it's in Massachusetts, which I look at their case law and I'm like appalled at how they limit like third-party culprit and stuff like that. So I think this may have to go federal route to get any relief in the end, but I just can't see how they can get a conviction on anything, even the lesser charges.
Yeah, I don't think there is going to be an appeal, for the obvious reason there'll be no need for it. I mean, obviously juries will do what juries do. That's up to them. But, when the time comes for summation and you pull this all together with the stuff that you've seen, this is just not going well for them. And they have What have they proven several weeks into this already? I mean, they played these clips out of context where there's been some degree of admission of consuming alcohol. Okay. What else have they proven really in this case? As far as I can tell, nothing other than if I'm a juror, I'm looking at Brennan and thinking like, why are you hiding this from me? And they don't even know the half of it. Okay. You know, to what Carl was saying, this is a prosecutor who literally said, I'm going to try to get behind the curtain and look at privileged communications between Karen and her attorneys because she might have made a real ticky-tack, you know, technical partial waiver of attorney-client privilege. So I'm going to try to drive a truck through that and see everything that she ever told her lawyers in those critical days. No prosecutor acting in good faith who takes their role seriously based on that kind of violation would ever do that. Okay. But this guy does it. No prosecutor trying a case like this would ever try to stuff Michael Proctor down the memory hole as if he didn't exist. But this guy does it. Okay. No prosecutor trying a case like this after stuffing Proctor down the memory hole would call a witness like Buchanan and allow this kind of nonsense, the way that he's testifying with this arrogance, this smugness, saying, I don't know what Proctor did. And all you're doing is inviting someone like Allen, who's going to stick with it, to go warrant by warrant, okay, report by report, and just shove it down your throat and establish that you're hiding things. And the kinds of things that they're hiding, by the way, related, you know, for example, to the taillight. I mean, he opened up an hour-long cross-examination of day by day, taillight piece by taillight piece, how Michael Proctor found it. There's no report. There's no this. I don't recognize his handwriting. I don't know. And all he's doing is illustrating for the jury, I don't believe a word of what you're saying from the witness. And you, Mr. Prosecutor, I don't trust you either. And that's going to be important when it comes time for summation. You know, lawyers' credibilities are not an issue that the jury is told about, but you need to have belief that the lawyers are telling you the truth. And why would any of these jurors look at Hank Brennan right now and say, you're acting in good faith? You're supposed to be the prosecutor here. And why is the defense, you know, the so-called scumbags in these trials telling me everything that really happened here? Why am I learning all of these facts from the defense? That shouldn't be happening.
Is there any way for him to bring that back to like kind of like get that back with the jury, like over the weekend, think about it and be like, you know what, I need to prepare the jury. I mean, you think he's even noticing it right now? I mean, that to me is so obvious what's happening here. I just wonder, is there anything he can do as a prosecutor to kind of right the ship on this?
What's he going to do? I mean, Monday morning, Buchanan, who's already a disgrace and a disaster, is going to get called out for talking about inverted video that he says was a fair and accurate depiction of what happened, just happens to have the wrong taillight, just happens to hide Proctor, who we don't mention. And then he says, I recognize Proctor because it's the wrong taillight. I recognize myself. Then he learns about the inverted video and he says, I don't recognize the guys in the video anymore. He's screwed. I mean, the cross-examination on the real topics hasn't even started, and this guy is already toast.
Get my popcorn, waiting for that Sally part.
Hey, one of the things that I think was like just even the most obvious thing that he could admit to is the fact that Proctor didn't have honor and integrity on this investigation. When you can't even admit the most obvious thing about the whole case of your testimony is that this guy is so bad and you didn't do your job and you even got punished, quote unquote, for failing to properly reel him in and supervise him. And you can't even admit that this guy's out of control and the lead investigator when the state board that fired him actually called him the lead prosecutor. So when you can't admit to something that obvious, it's all downhill from there. So I just wonder how could the jurors just sit there with this slow rolling motion of a trial schedule where like they're not coming back till Monday at 10. There's been, all these long breaks, which are mostly created, I would say, by Brennan consistently objecting to things that should be allowed in for the right to present a constitutional defense. So they're just really hamstringing the jury. They don't have them there for enough hours to listen to evidence. And then all these objections, forcing sidebars. It's sort of like, and that's why I don't like this whole idea of hiring somebody to specifically target one citizen. And now he's been paid, what, over $250,000. He'll probably be $500,000 by the time his trial's over.
$1 million. I think it's going to be $1 million, actually.
Okay, that makes it even worse. So what he's incentivized to keep persecuting instead of prosecuting, and this is a perfect example of why I think hiring somebody from the outside, especially a defense attorney, I don't understand, Mark, why they wouldn't have somebody from the Attorney General's office come down. That's what normally happens if there's a conflict, or a local attorney's office, district attorney's office doesn't have the expertise on a really complex case. You hire a defense counsel of all people.
I think he
doesn't have control. Yeah, go ahead.
But I think it's even worse than that, because Lally and McLaughlin and another person, they're sitting there at the table. There is no conflict. This office did prosecute the case the first time. They're there to prosecute it the second time. And nevertheless, Morrissey, who, many people think is corrupt, incompetent, or a combination of the both, somehow takes taxpayer money and hires special prosecutors for cases the same way you buy quarts of milk at the supermarket. I mean, this is just the norm. But the worst part is there is no conflict. His office is sitting at the table. And if there's no conflict, I mean, we talk about this all the time, it only mean one of two things. No one in the office is willing to prosecute it, or no one's competent. And neither one of those is a good answer. So what are you going to do? You're going to bring in a very aggressive defense attorney who some people, he's a mob lawyer. I don't even care about that. But you bring in this, very aggressive lawyer who, as you said, is programmed to be a defense attorney and throw every piece of mud at the wall, make every legal argument, whatever it is. I'm going to get past privilege. I'm going to preclude experts. I'm going to do this. And he's making a complete joke out of this. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the big loser is going to be Michael Morrissey. Okay. Brennan's going to make $500,000 to $1 million, and whatever happens to him, it's going to happen to him. But ultimately, Morrissey's got to answer the questions here, right? I mean, he's the one who chose to do this, and is still to this day never explained why. I mean, I'm the DA of a county, not a small county. There's nobody who can do this. We have to pay extra money for this. And look what they're getting. Look at what they're getting. It doesn't appear ethical. I mean, you've seen the pretrial stuff going on with this guy. He appears to have an allergy to the truth. We've all talked about it. You saw the shenanigans with the ARCA stuff. You've seen his misrepresentations about all kinds of things. You've seen him try to pierce privilege. You've seen him try to hide Proctor. You've seen him try to do all this other stuff. I mean, if you're a taxpayer in that county, what the hell are you paying for? Why? This is what you get?
This is the point that drives me crazy, that the press doesn't dive into that whole thing about the special prosecutor and the $1 million, and because it's exactly right. You're right, Mark. They're not looking at like it's a conflict with those two other prosecutors sitting right there, part of the team, and it's obvious why, because they don't, like you said, no other prosecutor in the office wants to take this case, and I feel like Channel 4, 5, 7, 25, they should be all over this DA's office talking about that every day, asking them about it, and they don't, and it's just frustrating.
But that's the scandal. If you go to any large DA's office, again, I can only use the example I have, which of course it's not a good example because it's 5 times, 6 times the size of this office. But any generally large DA's office, they would have roundtable discussions about a prosecution or an investigation, possible prosecution into a case like this. And you would have all these bright minds, and you would talk about all the problems and how do we do this? How are we going to get past this? And I'm telling you, 99 out of 100 DA's offices would say, maybe we don't know what happened here, but that's not good enough. We wear the white hat. We don't bring cases, not only without probable cause, which would be unethical, but in a real DA's office, they would say, if we don't legitimately believe in what we're doing and think that the evidence will support a conviction, we're not doing this. We're not in the business of satisfying the public and that they're going to yell at us and criticize us. We have to do what's right. But in Norfolk County, at least it appears as it relates to this case, they are so obsessed with getting the people involved in this whole universe that they just do it no matter what. And it's disgraceful.
Really is. Speaking about Buchanan today, I want to go to Carl now. Carl Steinbeck, we'll go to you first. What did you think about having him read those text messages? Was that effective? And what do you think the defense was trying to get out of that?
Well, I think that's the best way to show why there is the angle of motive to argue for the defense on what happened that night, because it really looks like it's a long-standing communication line for multiple weeks between Karen and Higgins. And so Higgins, he kept on saying he kept on mentioning comments like he wasn't taking her serious, that you sort of playing me, like, why are you interested in me? And yet she wouldn't really say much. And so there's just all this cat and mouse game going on, and they would meet up certain different times. And it sounded like some of the times that John might have been there as well. So then you have this weird triangulation thing going on right in the same bar. And, or else they had a chance of bumping in if that was the case. And so, and then we had the issue of John seeing her say goodnight to him on his, whether it was Arlo ring, I can't remember. So that right there, right there, you have some knowledge among that there's a triangle with John as well. So John is maybe got his antenna up saying, hey, something's off with Karen and this guy. So, and then this guy, the way he's acting in the bar, I mean, he's ticked off. He feels like he's been played. Now she's ghosting him. He's texting her in the bar and she's still ignoring him. So what does he resort to? He starts texting John saying, hey, are you coming over, with triple question marks? That's not the way a guy acts if they're friends with him and they want him to come over. It's like he had some kind of agenda going on. I'm not even saying that there was any kind of agenda of violence, but there was some kind of confrontation that looked like it was about to go down. And even the way that, Jen was trying to isolate Karen and going separate. So maybe something would happen in the parking lot or some kind of confrontation, but it looks like there was some kind of throwdown maybe that was going to go down. And so, we don't know exactly what happened, but the prosecutor doesn't know exactly what happens. And so that's reasonable doubt. And so I think that the fact that the defense again is playing this rest of the scene and the prosecutor isn't, he's hiding the ball. I mean, every day it's like, wow, how can a prosecutor be hiding the ball this bad? And so if any juror thinks they can trust this Hank Brennan, I mean, every day he's digging himself a deeper and deeper pit of hiding truth from the jury. And as I've said, he can only win this case by hiding the truth. And he's got the judge to continually rubber stamp his truth hiding efforts. But the jury has to be able to see it for what it is, which is, this is an absolute disgrace to have a case like this brought to trial.
So I agree with everything Carl just said. But let me give a different spin on it with the text messages and where it led. This is an example, in my view, of Allen and the defense playing chess and Brennan playing checkers, because it has multiple benefits. I mean, it's just seeing the big board and thinking strategically, and again, credibility with the jury. Okay. By having Buchanan read the messages, as painful as it is, it's bigger than just the messages. What it's showing is, number one, they're not going to call this witness Higgins. Okay. You don't even know about this guy. I'm going to tell you all about him. So you have to struggle through the text messages, and yeah, they're really cringe. They're really weird in many places. But at the end of the day, what do you see? First of all, jurors are not stupid. Okay. They know what Karen Reed looks like. They have an idea what Higgins looks like. They don't fit. Okay. Let's just call it what it is. It's a mismatch, right? Just in terms of the way couples usually would come together. And Higgins is really into this. Okay. He wants to believe this is real. And but you can tell he's like, I'm really not believing this is real, but I'm kind of getting worked up, and I want to believe this. And then you get to the end of the messages and you start to realize that the gig is up. She's like, it's not real. You get to the messages with John O'Keefe, right? About, are you coming and all that. And then you get to the video and the waterfall, which is pretty disturbing. The pointing, the Chris Albert holding him back and all of that. So now you look at the jury and you say, what are we seeing here? Not only are we seeing a possible motive for some other person to do it, we're seeing a motive for some other person to do it who the prosecution is not calling. That's troubling. Why am I learning about this from the defense? But there's another angle to this, which is Buchanan. You're the investigator they're giving us, because they won't give us Proctor, okay? Because they're hiding him, and we know you've lied about him. But you're the investigator. You're the straight shooter. You're going to follow the evidence wherever it goes. And so when he looks at all the Higgins evidence and everything else, this is the extra bonus the defense gets. His attitude is, I don't really see anything. I didn't need to do this. I didn't need to look at this. They are satisfying what's going to happen in summation when the defense argues this was tunnel vision. We were going to nail the girl from the jump. We never looked at anyone else, and we know best. We're arrogant. We're this. And so, I mean, all of these things are coming out in one line of cross-examination, and it's brilliant because you are literally discrediting Proctor. You're discrediting Buchanan. You're discrediting Brennan. You're showing that you're not being honest to the jury. And you're also showing that the state police as an entity had no interest in looking at anything past the girl did it. And they don't have to prove a damn thing. All they need to do is poke reasonable doubt. And the jury doesn't even know about Higgins yet, that he burned his phone the day before a preservation order. That, you know, he had one of the only butt dial conversations ever recorded in American history. They don't know that his testimony at the first trial was that when he left the waterfall, it was fine. Everybody was happy. You saw that video. Something was going on there. I don't know what it was. Something was going on there. And this is the kind of thing, when the jury learns all of this, they look at the prosecution and they say, what kind of bill of goods are you trying to sell me, guy? It's just a terrible look. So it was brilliant on multiple levels. I mean, they really satisfied many points that favor the defense through one apparent simple line of questioning that started with these, you know, god-awful messages.
Yeah, I split a 2-for-1 today on RKO, but I feel like you're right. It's like a 4-for-1. But like, I think that most important thing, the thing that struck me, was exactly what you said at the end. The last point is that Buchanan is now looking like, yeah, he didn't take this seriously. He just if he didn't look at that, he didn't even consider any of that information. How could you just focus on Karen Reed? So it was just, I really think it just showed their one-track mind to pin it on the girl.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just one issue with him. I mean, he's a guy who, you know, leaning on the rail, could tell you for an hour that, you know, we'll just go back over the course of 3 weeks and look for taillight pieces. That's fine. And by the end of it, I don't even need to call crime scene unit anymore. I don't need to do a report for another year and a half or whatever it was. And where was it recovered? Well, you know, generally it was in the same general area. What the hell does that even mean? The general area. What are you talking about? These are important taillight pieces. It's your whole case. You could go on and on with this guy. And the attitude that he projects is, trust me, I know best, as I'm leaning on the rail, and I got it. Don't worry. Nothing to see here. And if there is ever a prosecution team that is like not reading the room properly, when you look at all this and you look at the way he tried to, you know, dismiss Proctor as a nobody, wouldn't even call him the lead agent. He just couldn't do it. That could have gone on for another hour, and he never would have said it. And everyone in that courtroom knows, dude, of course he's the lead investigator, like, enough. And he just won't do it. And he still thinks, this arrogant, smug witness still thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and doesn't even understand that you have probably torched the whole prosecution case in the last day and a half with your attitude.
How he could think he's the smartest guy when he didn't know the word colloquialism and is in Massachusetts.
Hey, when you stop to think about this, we've now finished up 3 weeks of a jury trial with many more to go. And the prosecutor is so much hiding the ball from the jury that we've still not seen autopsy photos. That is huge. I mean, that's a massive, massive concealment. And so I think that what that indicates is that the prosecutor knows that is also very much playing to the defense theory that this was not a vehicle strike. This was something else. He got beat up. There was a dog that attacked him. That makes the most sense based on injuries. And that's the only reason why he's hiding it for so long. And then we hear he's not going to call the medical examiner. I mean, to have those two things happen and then the lead investigator isn't called, for those three things to happen, it's like unprecedented. I don't think there could ever be a case like that in America. But lo and behold, when you hire a special prosecutor to go after just one person, this is the kind of chaos you get.
Something brilliant happened today, and this is kind of like a throwaway comment, but it was really resonating, I would think, with the jury and certainly in summation. They go through all these hours of cross-examination with Buchanan about the taillight, about he doesn't want to talk about Proctor, about everything. And, you know, the DA's position going into this trial is going to be, you've got to be kidding me with like planning taillight. It just sounds so ridiculous. And most people would say, without knowing more, wow, that's like a bridge too far. The idea that somebody's going to litter taillight. But then because Buchanan was so defiant on what Proctor did, what he did, and the importance, and after extracting by pulling teeth through this guy about the visits to get the taillight with everything else, after all of this, did you notice towards the end of the day, one question that Alan established? All the taillight pieces, the very first piece was recovered after the vehicle had been in the state police possession in the Canton Sallyport. And this guy who wants to fight and just argue about every definition of every word on every question and talk at half speed and do everything he can to deflect, sheepishly had to say, yeah, that's accurate. There you go.
With honor and integrity. I'm glad you brought that up earlier too, Carl. We had some comments and questions about that. There's been a lot of common comments coming through. One of the questions that everyone wants to know, I'm going to ask it a couple different ways, but what should the prosecution do at this point? Like, because Aiden's reporting, Christina Rex has said, Karen Reed's made some statements. We've been kind of talking about it tonight about it seems like this is going to be a truncated prosecution. They're not going to call all these witnesses. Should they? Should they call Michael Proctor? Should they call Higgins? Should they call Matt McCabe? Should they call Brian Albert? Should they call the medical examiner? All these folks that they're not going to call. Should the prosecution actually call them? What do you think? And are they? Are they going to actually not call all these people?
You're asking us what the prosecution should do?
Yeah.
They should dismiss the case. They never should have brought the case. I mean, we talked about that a year and a half ago. I think one of the first times we met. There's just too many holes here. So, I mean, they're kind of stuck with it. They're not going to dismiss the case, obviously. I'm sure they have a lot of hard thoughts over the weekend about, you know, did they smoke us out of our cave? Do we now have to call Higgins? I'm sure that's a real thought for them. Do we have to call Proctor? They're not going to do it. They're not going to. I mean, they're not going to do that. But you're asking questions that are like virtually impossible. I mean, why haven't they called more people from the house? You know, at the first case, their big argument was nobody went in the house. And the way they buttressed that was we have 12 witnesses who all say they didn't go in the house. Well, this time they have one so far. And that's Jennifer McCabe, who's got other problems, obviously. Do they need to call some of these witnesses to maybe strengthen that argument? I mean, if the defense calls Higgins and Brian Albert, they'll say nobody came in the house. Although Brian Albert will say somebody came in the house.
He did last.
You know, the man fits John O'Keefe's description, but was not John O'Keefe. I mean, look, I don't know what they do, and it's their problem, not mine, because morally and ethically and from a position of professional responsibility, I think the answer is obvious. They ought to run away, but they're not going. They're not going to. You know that.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows the fact if they don't call these witnesses, it just shows how How they should have never had a second trial. They should have never had a first trial, but the retrial even worse. What do you think about it, Carl? About not calling all these
Well,
people, the
I
possibility.
mean, all these witnesses, when you don't call who defense is going to argue as a third party culprit, when you don't call them, it just shows you don't trust their testimony yourself as a prosecutor. So you want to establish with credibility what happened that night and that John never came into the house. So it just really would play into the defense if they have to call him that, look, we're gonna show what happened that night, and through cross-examination and impeachment, there's going to be strong suspicion that they had something to hide. The prosecutor knows that, and so they're trying to minimize, because if you stop and think about it, every single witness they call is more helpful, pretty much every single witness is more helpful to defense than the prosecutor. So the more they call, the worse it's going to get. So it's really a numbers game. And so he's trying to do damage control. I think the flip side of that is the longer he drags us out, the more money he makes. So I think that's sort of competing things in his mind. So anyway, it just shows you how corrupted that process is. So yeah, I can see him, just doing minimal. He could probably wrap up next week, no problem, for what his agenda is. And then, I think also I wonder, like, I hear it's a younger jury as well. I wonder, like, how are they tolerating this slow roll of the days is dragging by? They're not really productive for the jury. They don't have to show up till 9 or 10, and miss days for this, Fridays for that, and it's just, and then the sidebars because the prosecutor always objecting, and so I just think that as a juror, sort of maybe going to be checking out as well. So I can see the prosecutor thinking, hey, we need to wrap it up for that reason as well. But so anyway, I think that defense is doing what they got to do, and they can't take their foot off the gas. I think the first trial, they sort of took their foot off the gas because they thought this thing's so open and shut. But when you got a former cop on the jury, it's never, you can never take your foot off the gas. So I think they realize they got to go for the sledgehammer, and they're going for the kill all the way this time. And so I think that's the right approach. And so if the prosecutor doesn't call him, you better call him. You better get in their face, and you better show exactly what your theory is through your questioning.
This one, defense. Who should they call these witnesses? Like, let's say the prosecution rests their case and doesn't call all the usual names: Higgins, Proctor, Tully that we've mentioned tonight, Matt McCabe, the medical examiner. What happens if they don't call all those people? Should they call them all? Should they call some of them? Who should they call? Who would be the best ones to call?
You have to remember they gave a very aggressive opening statement, which is not evidence. That's true. But people remember it, okay? And in their opening statement, they went all in on Michael Proctor. I mean, they literally called him a cancer, literally, and talked about him being terminated because of bias in this case. And again, we'll see what comes out on Cross and Buchanan to further sully him. But, there's a risk if you don't drag him in and take him through the ringer. Now, they also got a gift in the motion practice because apparently, Michael Proctor is going to be the patsy for the missing Sally Port video. I mean, they could drag him for an hour on that alone if they really wanted to. Putting him aside, they also opened up on a third-party culprit, which to me is, not that big a deal. Third-party culprit is just a enhanced form of a bout in defense, really. It's kind of the same thing. But you've done so much damage with Higgins right now, and let's assume the prosecution doesn't call him. However, are you going to leave out the fact that he literally went to a military base and destroyed his phone, given what you've already planted in the jury's mind? That him and Brian Albert, were having abdominal thrust. That was unfortunate language going on today, or doing the Heimlich. And they're having a butt dial conversation, which is unheard of, obviously. Higgins was creeping around the Sally Port on the phone at 1:35 in the morning. That there's never going to be a great explanation for the other waterfall video. So, I mean, there's always risk in calling these witnesses, but Would I call Higgins if I'm the defense? Absolutely. And I think they got to call Brian Albert. Absolutely. You've got to connect these dots and let him say, that he previously testified that I have no recollection of the butt dialing because I was in an intimate moment with my wife. Ask them about the dog. I mean, you learned a lot about the dog today. That was like, are you kidding me? That may make you think about calling Nicole Albert. I don't know that I would, but at the first trial, didn't she say I drove up and dropped him off on the highway and handed him over? That's not what. Nicole is the one who got the phone calls, the 507 phone calls, the 38-second phone call later. Might you get into that? I would. And then you sum up and say, why did we have to call these witnesses? Now, the cost of doing business is these witnesses are all going to swear up and down that nobody came in the house. Whatever. The bottom line is you need some of these witnesses. You also need Brian Albert, presumably, or somebody, if you want to finish that text chain that they started that didn't, the Asian house, remember that? And they're doing this. And I mean, there's a lot more texts that are really cringe and incriminating to these people that they haven't even gotten into yet. So I would absolutely call some of these people.
Gabe too. Guy didn't come into the house. What do you think, Carl, about all these witnesses?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't show who they are and you're afraid to call them as witnesses for the defense, then it's almost like you don't even believe your own theory.
Exactly.
The suspect. So you lose credibility.
Yep.
And the way that they got so much damaging information on how suspicious they act, none of them are ever going to admit to being a part of anything. And none of them are going to admit to have any knowledge of what somebody else did that could implicate a third party and how John died. But they're all acting as if they know something. And that is enough to show third-party culprit. Their credibility is just absolutely destroyed when they get up there. And so I think especially Brian Albert, the way he comes across in the witness stand, the jury's going to see that this guy comes across really bad, and he's sort of scary looking. And so I think if they got a scary looking, menacing guy like Brian Albert, he looks like he's a fixer kind of guy. And exactly what the defense is arguing is that there was a fixer kind of situation that happened, and he needed help via Jen. So it sort of like puts all the pieces together, the puzzle. So if you don't call it, it's like you're really, like I say, taking your foot off the gas, and you could risk it going bad for you. So I think if they keep hammering away, exposing the truth for what it is, it's going to work out better and better, and every day is going to be another win for the defense. I don't know what these Aperture guys are going to say. I don't know how they could contradict what ARCA is saying, because ARCA is basically just saying what common sense tells you, right? Common sense tells you, this like how we heard how that Trooper Paul said John got struck and got flown 30 feet and doing a spiral spin move. And all. I mean, that's just so far-fetched, crazy talk. So are they going to find somebody that's going to support that? And then, one of the things, what do you think about this, Mark? What do you think if the defense calls even Trooper Paul to show that this is how screwed up the prosecution is? They got experts that can't even agree what happened, and the way he comes across, it's like sort of like muddy the waters that way. So that's
do you bring Trooper Paul up? What do you think, Bederow? I mean, that's a good point. Do you bring him up? Because he was such a train wreck.
Put him to the side for 1 second, just so I don't lose his thought. Then I want to get to Trooper Paul. Just about Brian Albert. I actually thought when he testified at the first trial, his demeanor was the best of all of them, believe it or not.
He was cool, collected.
Yeah. I thought he came off appearance. I mean, some of his testimony on its face didn't make a lot of sense, but I actually thought his demeanor, he puts on the cardigan, the reading glasses.
Yeah, he looks like grandfather. He looks like a tough grandfather.
He was also very calm, and I have to be honest, I thought he came off a lot better than the rest of them.
He's a pro.
Paul would be fascinating for the the blood sport, and we're all we enjoy that, and you want to slap someone around and kind of make a spectacle out of this. But I would tell you, to me, that's too far down the rabbit hole. I mean, the defense is winning right now. They're going to have their ARCA people. I don't know what the Aperture people are going to say. You're going to cross-examine the Aperture people anyway about Trooper Paul, and whether they read that, and do you disagree with that, and are you aware that da 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 da. To me, that's enough. I'm not calling Trooper Paul to kind of confuse and just make a mess of this, but I think he's a factor when you're cross-examining the aperture people to point out that this is like take two. These people, they don't have a clean theory, okay? They'll do anything they can to say she did it. And it goes hand in hand with, at the first trial, they can't call it the first trial, but, Jennifer McCabe, the crime had to have happened at 12:45. Why? Because that's when Jennifer McCabe saw the car. Now they say it's 12:31. And you saw this in the alcohol expert, right? Time of incident, 12:45, same kind of thing. To me, Trooper Paul serves that kind of purpose. It's just a way to demonstrate to the jury that these people have no moral compass. They have no cogent theory. They throw mud at the wall, and whatever works today is what they're going with. And when you're the party with the burden of proof and you have no clean theory, and you're the one that's kind of speculating, you lose, period.
Hope so. Do you want to have any rebuttal about Trooper Paul at all, Carl?
Well, no, I can. That's what I'm saying. I was sort of like, I think it'd be sort of fun to bring him up there and just sort of like
fun.
bring him up. But in the end, I think strategically, I agree with Mark. I probably wouldn't do it, but I'm biting at the bit to be able to do that, right? So if this was my case, but I think I thought. I guess I would disagree with Mark on the sense. If you think he came across good, I thought he came across good from the defense perspective. You're saying from the prosecution standpoint. I just looked at him as a guy that was like, this guy looks to me like the most capable one of doing something like the defense is trying to say. And so I thought he had sort of like a sinister look about him. And I thought he was doing everything he could to avoid that kind of look. And so that's why he had this Mr. Rogers look in there and stuff like that. So anyway, I think, and the way he came across credibility-wise, the way he wouldn't admit to anything, the way he wouldn't come outside, I think they can get a lot of mileage out of him. So, to me, otherwise, I think, are we going to be able to see Colin Albert called as a witness?
I doubt it.
I mean, is the defense going to be blocked from calling him? So I don't know
why they would. I mean, if they can't argue that he's responsible, what are they calling him for? To me, I think a lot of these Alberts just become irrelevant. Colin, Caitlin, Brian Jr.
No. Yeah.
But the thing about Brian Albert, putting aside his demeanor, the reality is there is a lot more evidence against Brian Higgins than Brian Albert. I mean, in terms of establishing, Brian Albert, he may be frightening looking. He shows up in the jury box and does his Frank Pentangeli stare and all of that, and it's intimidating. But I mean, that's not really evidence. But Higgins has some degree of a motive, and not only just a motive, but he's the unfortunate bastard who sent the text message less than an hour before the DA claims that John O'Keefe was killed, who says, "Are you coming here?" After he was pointing at him and waving him on and doing all that. And after he tried to get with Karen, it didn't work. It doesn't mean he killed anyone, but that's information that the jury might want to know that the DA hid. As far as Brian Albert, I don't know what any motive he would have to do anything other than just going with the flow.
Yeah, I think in terms of I guess I would say just by virtue of it being his house, he was the one that was still there to be able to do something to help save John, and he didn't. And so, yeah, was he the one that maybe struck a blow, or if there was an accident and they're afraid of having some kind of spectacle and a lawsuit coming out of it and whatnot. So none of it makes any sense for why they acted the way they did. And if they're innocent, they're not acting like it. That's what's so peculiar about it. None of them are acting innocent. And you talk about law enforcement officers that are, especially like Albert. I mean, he's testified 100 times, and he comes across like it's his first, and like he's got something to hide. So I just think this is going to be another day of win for the defense. However many days these guys are on the witness stand, it's going to be. They need to make sure they bring out all the truth, and that's gonna be the best thing to get them across that bar and get the not guilty vote.
To me, I mean, like the whole third party culprit thing is, I don't want to call it a red herring, but it just doesn't matter to me because the way the argument is, and of course you haven't heard the ARCA evidence yet or any of that stuff, but if there's no car accident, then Karen Reed didn't do it. And if you can add to that with, if she didn't do it, someone else did, and I don't know who did, we don't have to prove that, but there's all these weird things going on with Google searches and butt dials and arguments at bars, and that all helps. But I don't need to go down the rabbit hole of even trying to suggest who did it, other than there's no proof that she did. You know that. And, to me, the biggest issue for the jury will be if she didn't do it and somebody else did it. The biggest fact that they're ever going to have to get over is, well, how the hell is there taillight all over the lawn? Unless she exploded the taillight. And you can thank Buchanan today for helping that argument along. I mean, it doesn't sound so ridiculous because they find it day after day with the snow melting, and you're seeing these ginormous pieces that nobody found all this time. So, I mean, I'm careful to not really say it was Higgins. I don't care if it was Brian Albert. It wasn't Karen. You know that. Was it these people? I don't know. But they're acting weird, and there's got to be a reason for that. We don't know, but you can't convict her with all this. And I mean, to me, that's a guaranteed she walks out of the courtroom free. I mean, I don't see how they ever get past that.
Yeah, I don't think they need the third-party culprit defense instruction and all that, because then you have to go to the named party and all that. I just think the reasonable doubt is we don't know what happened. They're all acting guilty. They all act like they got something to hide. And the prosecution has to prove what happened, and they can't even describe how John actually wound up the way he did. And so it's just oodles of reasonable doubt.
Felt like before it was maybe about a week ago. I feel like, oh, we're gonna get another hung jury. I still feel like that's a good possibility, but I feel like this one is going better. I feel like it's more likely she's gonna be found not guilty this time. I know we haven't seen the defense. I know it's early. Am I off base for thinking that so early? Do you guys feel like that?
I mean, look, to me, the whole prosecution case, whether it's a Hail Mary or not, is going to come down to their technical people, whether it's the telematics of the car combined with their accident reconstruction. And if they can't survive that, then they're screwed. I mean, their cell phone people, they didn't carry the day. They needed to carry the day. They needed to be overwhelming. They weren't. I don't know that they were thoroughly discredited, but by the time the defense expert says, well, I think a Google search happened at this time, the prosecution witnesses had some problems. If they don't know what time the Google search was, then the defense is going to win. I mean, that's just the reality. So unless they're going to have scientific open and shut proof of guilt, to me, they're in a terrible situation. And, all their witnesses have been damaged dramatically. And I think what you saw today with the cross-examination today, since, Buchanan, again, is carrying he's like Atlas, right? Carrying the weight of the world for the Massachusetts State Police. He's the only guy. That's their guy. This is our star guy. And he was destroyed today. And the cross-examination hasn't even really started for him. So I don't know where they're going. I just don't, see it. The ARCA people are coming. The defense is going to call medical experts, including the medical examiner who testified for the prosecution and conducted the autopsy, who's going to say, that he would have been incapacitated right away. The timeline is messed up from Whiffen and Jen McCabe. I mean, we're talking reasonable doubt here. You're not trying to prove what happened. You're talking reasonable doubt. And there's just an ocean of apparent reasonable doubt already. So, I mean, I think there's reason to be optimistic, certainly, but you do need to see what's going to happen with the prosecution expert. But you can also, if you look behind the curtain a little bit, why has Brennan been so paranoid for the past 3 weeks or whatever it was about they're not allowed to, rebut our experts. They're not allowed to talk about our experts' conclusion, which is, by the way, that's ridiculous. That's happens in every case involving experts. But this guy has been paranoid about the idea of the ARCO experts saying, not only do we think it didn't happen based on what we reviewed, but after reviewing the Aperture report and all the other evidence, we still believe that. It's not a good place to be in if you're a prosecutor.
It seems like he's painted himself in a box here. It's just no chance. I feel like there's no chance of convicting her. It's like I just don't see where you go from here.
I think it would be tough to get 12 out of 12. That's true.
Yeah. Here's a question we had. We're going to go some of the questions tonight. We got a lot of questions being posted. Again, I saw some super chats coming in. I love the super chats, but we're going to do the questions not on super chat tonight. So super chats right at the end. If you have a question, just post it in the chat. Nexus Lexus says, what has been the most surprising thing for you in the retrial? Carl, what do you think?
Well, I think that's the thing that burns me up the most is this seeing the way this prosecutor is trying to trample on Karen's constitutional rights. So this is so much worse than the first trial. That's what's really infuriating to me. And then you got this judge that's just doubling down on just rubber stamping all this stuff. And so what's really makes me mad is that I see a prosecutor that's going for a win, not for justice. And you see that with a lot of prosecutors. It's like, hey, they're trying to be sneaky. And I call them out on their sneakiness every single jury trial I've had, because there's always some degree of sneakiness, it seems like. And so I would say that for this to be this underhanded and cutthroat on keeping out, for example, that FBI retired agent Easter to talk about how just nothing was done to standard, nothing on this. It wasn't even an investigation. It's like some seventh graders went out there and tried to play cop, right? So I think then the judge is doubling down so bad on this, because we didn't have Brennan's tactics in the first trial, right? So it wasn't as egregious against Karen and her team. But now that you got a Brennan, that he's like, you couldn't find a guy that's going to be more going after the jugular and hiding the ball on stuff. And then you got a judge that's blocking it with all these objections that he's playing to get a win, not to survive an appeal. Because normally, Mark and I, when we're prosecuting, we don't want to just win a case. We want to make sure it sticks on appeal. There's no point in getting a jury trial win if your office has to retry the whole thing, right? But that's part of the incestuous thing about having a hired gun like Hank Brennan, is that he's just going to go on to do his other jobs when he leaves this, or maybe he'll get some kind of political appointment out of this. But he doesn't care if this thing gets reversed on appeal. He got paid to do whatever he had to do to get the conviction. And so once the conviction happens, I think that they just think that, they're never going to go back and relook at this and think, hey, if we didn't get a conviction on Karen, could there be some truth to what the defense is saying about really what happened that night? And so maybe it'd force them to have some new fresh eyes look at it. No. So what's going to happen is unless she gets acquittal, this will be the end of it. Even if they trample on her rights and she gets a conviction, they'll never, I don't think, reopen this case. Even if there's a new prosecutor, they'll never relook at this and say, hey, we want to go after the real culprits on this. So that's why they really need to go for the win now, the defense. And so I think that's what the prosecutor's doing. He's going for the win now. He doesn't care what's appealed. And like Mark and I were saying, this thing would automatically be busted on appeal at some level. So that's why it's really, to me, it's so disgusting to see this kind of persecution. It's not prosecution here happening in 2.0.
Yeah, it's not good. Definitely not good.
No.
Let's go back to some more questions here. Widgets and Fidgets said, you are both gentlemen and scholars, and we all appreciate the absolute incredible insight that you present to the audience. And 3 cheers for the host. Oh, thank you so much. I thought there was a question there, but it was just They wanted to thank us. Let's get to the question. Shannon says, "What do you think Hank Brennan will bring up on the redirect on Buchanan? What do you think, Mark?
Well, I can tell you that.
Anything can salvage it at all."
Well, let's talk about the purpose of redirect generally and what Brennan has demonstrated so far. I mean, the purpose of redirect is try to pick up and clarify a few points that you feel like you were damaged on and cross, and then get out of there. His redirects so far in this case have been atrocious. He's made problems and made it worse repeatedly with his redirects because he likes to hear the sound of his own voice and wants to get the last word. That's just his nature. So you look at a guy like Buchanan and what you've seen so far, and again, you haven't even seen the worst of it yet, and you say, what are you going to redirect? Are you going to ask him whether, he did the best he could with integrity and honor? And, were you always guided by, what you thought was right or wrong? I'll be honest with you, as I sit here and watch what we've seen so far, what are you cleaning up with this guy? I mean, Buchanan is a disaster. His demeanor is terrible. His defense of Proctor is pathetic, and you would laugh if it wasn't so serious in a case like this. His, nonsense about we weren't interested in this, we didn't need to know because we had this, and everything we do is right. I don't know what the redirect is with this guy, and given the way Brennan generally does his redirects, it may just be get this guy the hell off the stand as quickly as you can and not open up doors. He has opened up doors on prior redirects that Allen has driven a truck through and made worse. I mean, one example is with, Jennifer McCabe and the text messages. You had that text chain, and then Brennan redirects on other text messages that weren't even part of the chain. And putting aside the fact that those messages should not have been admissible on redirect because they had nothing to do with the cross, but that's a different point. All he did was establish that, when Jennifer McCabe was talking to Kerry Roberts individually in the hours and days after this, she was lamenting how upset she was and how awful this was. And you wonder, well, that's Kerry Roberts. That's the one you're basically going to turn to be your stooge. At the same time, your family communications at the same time were what? Tell him the guy didn't go in the house. She's telling them everything, laughing, this. The guy, there's no concern, no crying about John O'Keefe. And that was all Brennan's fault. He just threw it out there. So with someone like Buchanan, I don't even know what you can clean up. To me, I don't even know if I would redirect. I would just hope to get him off the stand and hope that the jury focuses on something else.
Yeah, I think his redirect is really bizarre because he's basically doing all the testifying. He is so leading that he loses credibility.
Yep.
And it's like he's trying to tightly control a situation. The witness just disintegrated on cross. So he's so much trying to put the character back together that he's like tightly running the script, and they're just basically saying yes, no, and those kind of things. So it looks like panic. Every time I see him on redirect, it looks like he's got to control this, and he's trying to put the puzzle pieces back together because he absolutely had this witness blow up on cross-examination. So I think he's going to do more of the same, and he's going to go off on some tangents, or else he'll do like one of them. I can't remember which witness it was, but he sort of went on these really soft tangents about the weather. He started talking about the weather and going to stuff like that. And I'm like, on redirect, that's what you're going to bring up. So it's like, to me, it's like, it showed that he realizes like, I got to do some redirect. Otherwise I'm just left with like this witness absolutely disintegrated. So he thinks that a lot of attorneys like that, they think they got to have some kind of time. They got to stretch out some redirect to neutralize the damage done, but he's not able to neutralize the damage that's done on cross. And so he sort of stretches some stuff out and talks about ridiculous stuff. And like I say, he's mostly doing all the testifying. So we'll probably see some more of that with this next redirect, but it's not going to be any good or effective. So.
Question from Shannon, kind of a follow-up on that too, from Mama Rowe. She said, would either of you be shocked if he didn't redirect, if he just let it go and just said, that's it, I'm done, Buchanan, bye-bye?
Yeah, I speak for myself, obviously. Yeah, I'd be shocked because he can't help himself. This is a guy who has to get the last word and try to be the smartest lawyer in the room, and oftentimes he's not. I would be very impressed if he didn't redirect because, as I just said 2 minutes ago, you tell me what are you fixing from this? This guy Buchanan is a disaster. Okay, what he's saying and the stuff that he's arguing about and splitting hairs about whether Proctor had a major role, and you could go on and on with him. There's nothing to fix. Get him off the stand. But he can't help himself because you saw today too. He made a lot of what we call ouch objections. He didn't really have a reason, but it hurts, so I got to do something. So I'm sure he will redirect. I'm sure it won't help, but I would be more impressed if he just said, no questions, get him off. And, from his perspective, call the accident reconstruction people and try to turn the jury back to what he thinks is important, which are apparently science and out of context, 20-second clips from TV.
Even the best thing he's got going for him, the out of context 20-second clips.
Absolutely been his best evidence so far, have been out of context video clips. Yes, that's not a good sign.
That's terrible because they're not that convincing. Yeah,
I mean, there are some things that you wish, a client wouldn't say, and we've been down that road before. But
we have.
If you think those are getting her convicted based on that, that's not going to happen. You need a hell of a lot more than that.
This was we got a all caps troll here who had a question. I love throwing up the other side. They get their questions, but as usual, it's like you get like one shot a show, and this isn't really your best shot. Like maybe you should send better people. This is the comment. It says, "So you guys all believe everybody's lying except for Karen Reed."
So this is just ignorant, and whoever you are. Karen Reed hasn't said anything, okay? Yeah. She is a defendant who almost certainly is not going to testify, certainly has a right not to. So she said nothing at this trial. So I don't care what Karen Reed has said or not said so far. The evidence is there's a few clips of her saying things previously, and you don't have to believe everyone else is lying, but this is not a serious comment. I mean, this is just... we're talking about evidence in the court of law that either shows there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt or not. This is not a referendum or a litmus test on, they're all lying, but not Karen. This is, I hate to say it, but Mamie Mont or whatever, this comment is just ignorant.
I noticed too, Carl, you had a lot of kind of pushback and troll, just like Bederow, just like everybody that comes on these shows and start talking about Karen Reed. I mean, have you been getting a lot of this still, or people over it that you're supporting Karen Reed? Do you feel that, or do you just ignore it? How do you deal with that?
I don't think there's too many. I would have, I think I would have expected even more than what I've seen. So,
good.
I know I got an email from somebody like a few days ago that was a long email, and they're talking about how much they appreciate everything I was doing to expose the truth. And then 5 days later, I got an email talking about how terrible I was and how I can defend the guilty Karen Reed. And I was looking at it, this name looks familiar. It's from the same email. It's the same guy that's praising me one day, and then a couple days later blasting me and saying how terrible I am. And anyway, so I just and when I do live stream, I take some of them like you do, because I don't want to just have it totally one-sided. But if they act like they're sincerely trying to have a dialogue, then I can entertain that and address that. But if they're just coming on as a troll just to try to hijack the discussion, then you just got to swat them away.
Move on.
Hey, can we say one thing here?
Go ahead.
Mike, I think it's worth mentioning that, because there's a comment here at it looks like it was 636 from Alan Jackson's Pregnant Pause about this plexiglass that John's hoodie is in. I think that's very bizarre. And what I've said is that there's got to be some kind of reason why they did it to, again, hide the truth. And the comment here is saying about, is Brennan doing that to hide the puncture holes in John's hoodie with that plexiglass framing? And that's exactly what I think is going on. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I yesterday I was in court in the city, and I had a break, and was talking to Melanie about this a little bit in real time, and the idea that somehow out of nowhere we're now putting these clothes in these plexiglass finish, like the way we all hang athletic jerseys around our basement or whatever, was bizarre. But then when you say, well, why are they doing this? And the first thing that jumped out to me, and I said this yesterday, Carl, on the thing, was you take the hoodie particularly. I mean, Dr. Russell's thing is going to be the teeth marks and matched up, and they may very well, the jury may not be able to see that. You can't look at it. I don't know where the hell they come off doing this. I don't know if there'll be cross-examination about this. There's still time left, on Monday. I would absolutely be cross-examined. I think it's worth 2 minutes to say when, how, why, what, where, what are we doing here? And, are you aware that if it's behind plexiglass that we can no longer look at the actual stuff? And let him say, I don't know. And I think you just emphasize for the jury that this is weird and, more taxpayer expense as well. But to me, it makes no sense. And the only thing I could think of was to try to push back on puncture wound holes related to evidence that's upcoming about, allegations of dog bites and whatnot.
They really do look like dog puncture wounds. I mean, if you've ever had a dog bite through your clothing, which is a common thing, I think a lot of us have had that at least once in our life. It's exactly what it looks like.
Well, you look at it this way, and I don't know what this judge's rules would be, but I mean, the shirt is real evidence. And hypothetically, if in deliberations the jury says we need to see the shirt, want to look at it, well, there's a hell of a difference in looking at it in its real condition and holding a 6 foot by 2 foot plexiglass structure where you can't move it. I mean, it's different. It's not in the actual condition that they may want to see it. And that's, to me, some degree of troublesome.
Now, we have no idea if the defense has brought this up to the judge in a sidebar. Let's pretend they haven't. Should they? Should they make a big deal about this?
I mean, I'd cross on it for sure. I'd let the jury know that this is weird, not normal, and could be depriving you of the chance of inspecting. And I don't know that I'd make too big a deal out of it, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, even if the jury could open the thing out of the plexiglass, they're not going to probably be inclined to want to figure out how to open it up and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, there's just something sneaky about it again, just like everything else going on with this prosecution. Everything's sneaky.
Yeah, I mean, like, put it this way. The defense calls Russell, Dr. Russell. I don't know that they would literally want to show her or have her handle the shirt, but at this point, she can't do it, right? Given the condition it's in, that becomes impossible, and you're limited to pictures, pictures can be good, but it's never as good as the actual evidence. So it's bizarre, but everything about this case is bizarre too.
Hey, also, what about we haven't seen any photos showing the outline of where John's body was laying. There was like, what, a half an inch of snow at the timeline of the prosecution. There should have been no snow. It should have been like a perfect outline of his body laying there. And we never see anything of the sort. And then on top of that, the weatherman, how he was also used for defense. It's like the ground was frozen. Well, if the ground was frozen, then where's all the blood? The blood wouldn't have seeped into the ground. So they don't even have that lined up properly.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this the other day online. It's clear that there was not that much snow at the time that he was removed. And according to Kerry Roberts, there was grass underneath him, like the actual grass. And Gallagher was leaf blowing within, what, an hour, give or take. And our friendly neighborhood weatherman said maybe there'd be a dusting, an inch or two, whatever it was. Inch or two new snow, meaning there had already been an accumulation of 4 inches or whatever. And when you look at Gallagher's photos, these pictures are not good, obviously, but when you look at the photos and videos of him leaf blowing, the snow is generally even. There's no outline. There's no nothing. There's a few footprints that make it uneven, that sort of thing. But there ought to be a big difference between what ought to have been about 6 inches of snow and maybe an inch where he was. And I feel like that, to your point, has just been kind of glazed over. To me, that's doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I'm thinking his body heat would have melted any snow that was there when he first landed. So it should have been really pristine grass we saw there.
Yep.
You would think that would become a big deal in this trial.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question going back to Yuri, just a quick one here. The fact that the defense had Yuri read the text today from Brian Higgins, back and forth with Karen Reed, does that lead you to believe that they might not call Brian Higgins? Because last time I think it was Brian Higgins that was reading those texts. A lot of people are thinking that he would have been maybe the better person to read those texts today. What do you think? Do you read anything into that they had Yuri reading Brian Higgins' text today?
Well, when you say they aren't going to call him, who do you
The
mean?
defense. The defense, because yeah.
Well, maybe they haven't decided. They don't have to. I mean, that's the benefit of being the defense. You don't have to do anything, and you can kind of operate as circumstances dictate. I mean, to me, I would call him, but no, I think, again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. The benefit in having Buchanan read them, it's not so much that they're Higgins messages. You're showing that Buchanan had these messages. These were the messages you were given. These were the messages you ignored, on top of the waterfall evidence, on top of everything else. And I'm not only showing that Higgins could be a valid third-party culprit. I'm not only showing that, Proctor didn't do anything. I'm showing that you, Mr. Supervisor, and the state police had tunnel vision and had no intellectual curiosity or investigative interest in pursuing any of this. So I think it was a brilliant move, frankly, to have Buchanan do this so they could confront him with this, lead to the waterfall videos, lead to the other stuff, and say, what did you do with this? And the answer is nothing.
Yeah. And you get the jury thinking about it all weekend too.
Yeah. No, I think
early, which is so good. Yeah, I agree. I think that was
those texts they're the best evidence for establishing third-party motive, right? So having the investigator read them, and you could tell he really wasn't familiar with much of anything in this case. Having him read them, sort of like, this is probably the first time he even read that. So I think it was very much a good strategy, like Mark's saying. And I don't think they're going to rehash the whole lengthy thing. They're going to cherry pick the best parts where it looks like he's maybe feeling like he's being played by her,
where he's getting ghosted,
how good looking she is, and stuff like that. So I mean, he was really interested in her. I don't think she was really interested in him, and he was ticked off about it, especially at the waterfall. So they can really poke some buttons on him, and so yeah, I think it's playing out really well.
Yeah, I think he knew that too. He wanted her to be interested in him, but he knew that she was probably just using him because she was mad at John.
Yeah.
So this
we talk about the evidence mishandling.
Yes, go ahead.
Shoes.
Do you want to talk about that? Go ahead. Go right ahead. I'd love to talk about because that became a big thing today about who did he hand off the shoes to? There's a lot of discussion about that. What do you want to say about it, Carl?
Well, I've never seen a case this bad on evidence collection, and it's so bad the evidence really shouldn't come in, but because they don't have a chain of custody and it's not readily recognizable type evidence, and then you have the stuff in the wrong bag, and then you basically had to stop the trial and allow the prosecutor to then get with the defense and the witness, to Sergeant Buchanan, to try to square it away, because he said it was, even initially confused. He said it was the left shoe or the right shoe, I forget which order, and then he corrected himself on that, and then he said it came from the hospital, but then when he looked at the bag, he said it came from 34 Fairview. I mean, talk about doing a face plant on a murder case, and this is one of your star witnesses of prosecution, and it just shows this complete, I don't even want to call it Barney Fife, because that's sort of like an innocence incompetence, but here it's like they don't even have any effort or intent to even comply with any kind of evidence handling standards that you see in law enforcement. They never call CSI, and to have this play out in the trial itself. And one of the things I think that really is out there that has some traction with a lot of the folks that are commenting on my channel, which is, the shoe out there at the 34 Fairview, it looks like it has a black sole. And so
Yes.
how does a black sole happen when you have John, because we have scenes from McCarthy showing he had white soles, right?
Yeah.
Then you have a black sole at the scene, and then you have white soles brought into court, and those they mismark on the bags, and then you have dirty looking pictures from one that's in the evidence room supposedly, and yet they look like brand new shoes. They're also like untied in court. So was John out in the snow with no shoes tied? I mean, this whole shoe, it's like Shoegate kind of thing.
Shoegate. I know the bottom of the sole thing. When the Twitter people today threw that out there, I was just like, wow, look at that.
Well, and the curvature of the heel is what really, I think, distinguishes this from being a different shoe. And plus people are saying, and I've had some people that are like knowledgeable because they've worked for years dealing with Nike shoes, and they say these are definitely two different shoes. One of them is a runner and one of them is a trainer. So I don't know what the truth is for that. I'm just saying my instincts are that these are two different shoes we're talking about here.
So I don't have an opinion about the shoes because I just don't know.
Yeah.
I think the defense, if they were different, would go to town. But regarding the evidence collection, let's say this, and Carl, you're a much nicer person than me. What a freaking disgrace. Okay. This is pathetic with a capital P, and the shit show of shit shows. Okay. We are in a trial where the defense is that the police are incompetent. Okay. They're Keystone cops. Some of them may even be corrupt, but either way, they have disgraced the case by their evidence collection. And all we thought we were talking about were solo cups and leaf blowers and stop and shop bags. Then you come to learn, literally in the middle of trial, through the arrogant state police witness, the guy, this is their guy who's going to lean on the banister and take it home with that attitude, comes out, and it becomes clear, literally in real time in front of the jury, that these knuckleheads don't even know how to collect and voucher and mark evidence properly, and that in the best case scenario, some idiot misclassified the shoes. That's the best case scenario for them. In a case where the defense is the cops don't know what they're doing. Okay. So much so that they had to take a break, and the judge had to tell the jury, we're going to take a long break. I know it's like, and you think the jury's speculating? Of course they're speculating. Okay. So that was just such a gift to the defense that I am sure is going to be coming out on Monday as part of the remaining bad cross that hasn't even come up yet, because there is no excuse in a case like this for that. And the most shocking part of it is it also tells you that Brennan doesn't prep witnesses properly. Okay. Yeah. How do you not know? Okay. Carl was a prosecutor. I was a prosecutor. Every other prosecutor, when introducing real evidence, when you go over witnesses, you talk about what it is. And you know what you do? You look at the freaking evidence and you see what it is. And God forbid there was a problem with it. You figure it out in the office beforehand and you clean it up. Not on national TV where you're asking this guy, what is the shoe? And it's the wrong foot. It's bagged properly. And then you need to take a break. I mean, these people are just pathetic. And this is huge for the defense because it just plays right into their whole defense. So terrible.
Not good. Shoegate. Lizard says, should defense just call Steve Nelson? He's like one of the victim witness advocates, I believe, to get in a phone dump gate in. That way you don't have two witnesses say, no, he never went into the house.
I don't think so. I mean, again, I think you're going down rabbit holes. And, one of the problems Brennan has by streamlining the case, the first trial what did the prosecution argue? We had 12, 10, however many witnesses to a man and woman who said nobody came in the house. Right now, they've got one, and presumably, depending on how many people the defense calls, they'll have a few more. But these witnesses are at least partially compromised, given that the prosecution hid them, and there's all kinds of things coming out about them. Maybe their credibility is somewhat impacted. I think the way Brennan decided to do the presentation of evidence was too cute by half, too clever by half, and it was a masterful job today in exposing it. I mean, that was one of the real takeaways from the cross, is that Allen really drove a stake through the heart of the prosecution and their attempt to just kind of hide these people and make them non-factors. And he just made it front and center for the jury. Where are these people? And let's get to the truth. And when the defense is the one saying, we're going to give you the truth, it's not good for the prosecution.
Do you think that's the same thing, Carl, that they shouldn't bring this Steve Nelson guy up?
Yeah, I don't see how. I don't know what he has for phone data dumps. So he's sort of like a conduit for a lot of the calls, apparently, between Carrie and Jen. So if there's something there that's worthwhile, but I don't have enough details on how he would be relevant.
Question about Colin Albert. They want to know what is this? Bindlestick says, on what basis was Judge Bev able to shield Colin Albert?
Well, an incorrect one, as it were, but she argued that there was no reasonable view of the evidence that would allow him to be considered a third-party culprit. I think it's a wrong ruling, but to me, it's a blessing in disguise in that, I think in the first trial, they kind of took the cheese with Colin too far and kind of made it, as if it was him, and it doesn't matter. The issue is it's not Karen, and it could be any one of these people. There's all these weird things. Yes, you're losing the videos that he did, his testimony about his knuckles, which I don't think anybody would seriously believe is credible, that he fell and landed on his knuckles, because it's normal to make fists and land on your fist. But putting all that aside, it's a sideshow. You don't need it, and it doesn't matter. And you don't even need Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. But the point is, the prosecution didn't call these people. You've got the motive with Higgins. You got all that stuff out there. It's out there, and you're going to get the butt dials out there. You're going to get all this weird stuff out there. You don't really have as much of that with Colin. I don't think it matters. I think he's just not going to get called by either side.
I'm guessing he's not getting called. I mean, that's just the bottom line on him.
Yeah.
I just wonder. Sorry, I just wonder if the defense will just abandon the third-party culprit defense entirely, given the fact the judge didn't even totally admit it yet for the two Bryans. It's sort of like she's on the fence and she's got to see what develops at trial, kind of thing. So even if they try to, they may not get it. So I think Mark and I are saying the same thing. It's like you don't need to name any particular individual that you think is the culprit. They're all acting suspicious and guilty of something.
I have never been a big believer in the third party culprit as a thing, as a term of art. To me, it's all semantics. The defense is there was no car accident. The taillight is not there naturally. If it wasn't there naturally, somebody else must have put it there. Proctor is a good candidate. Da 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 da. And why would he do that? He's got a relationship with these people. Who are these people? I don't know, but they have a lot of weird things they were doing. Doesn't mean they killed anyone, but these are weird behaviors that don't make sense. They're guilty of something. They have no reason to be communicating in the way and in the private manner that they are. And it doesn't mean we know what they did, but these are questions, ladies and gentlemen. And to me, that's all you need. You don't need to say, the running joke that it was, Colin Albert in the conservatory with the candlestick. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what, and it's a bridge too far. You don't need to do that. The emphasis is on Karen didn't do it, and the evidence supports that, and all this other stuff adds to the reasonable doubt. Let's go home. So
it's almost like you're putting the burden on your client to prove something, and it's like you're sort of putting in the role, the burden the prosecutor has. You're sort of muddying the waters. It's confusing the jury, and the jury may just look at it as like, well, I don't think that guy did it, so it must be your client.
Exactly. And I think that even goes for shows like this. Like I that's one thing I've never done is like really point fingers at people because it's too difficult. Like the thing I've always stuck with covering this is that Karen didn't do it. We don't need to solve who did it. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not what this is about. It's just so I think even on a platform like a YouTube show, it's just much smarter just to deal with Karen didn't do it. You know, never mind a trial where it's so much more high stakes and yeah. So
Yep.
what about this one? Because this is one that comes up about the cover up. How important is it to bring this up? And do you think it was important that AJ got Yuri to admit today that the taillight didn't show up at 34 Fairview until after Karen's SUV was in custody? Do you think it was important that he got him to say that today? And how much should the defense like drill that, like make that a real part of the like closing and bring it up again and again and again? Or is it not that important? What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, it's important. And how much should they bring it up 100 times? And then when they think it's enough, 100 times more. This is a critical fact that their defense is premised on. I mean, if the taillight could not have been planted by law enforcement, that would tend to mean, well, how did it get there? And it had to have gotten there from a car accident. And what they've demonstrated through Buchanan, and this is part of the masterful cross-examination and the hiding proctor, is that it finally, even though it was like extracting with pliers, getting this guy to say anything, after 6 hours, the money point comes out, which is you guys had the car. None of the glass was found by the Canton police or anything. And only after you had the car was some of this found. So this is as big a point for the defense as any, and they need to hammer it again and again and again, because if they don't establish this point, they're screwed. They'll lose. So this is their, this is their hill to die on. They've got to prove this. Prove is the wrong word because they haven't enough to prove anything. They've got to establish with the jury that the evidence tends to support that, as Buchanan admitted, they had the car, then the taillight showed up, and that makes their theory plausible. So this is as big as anything for them.
CL for the comment. What do you think? Do you agree on this one, Carl?
Yeah, and this fits the narrative that stuff was done to set up Karen to take the fall for this. So if they keep finding stuff there at the scene, and keep in mind they have somebody that's very close by to be able to help facilitate that if they wanted to argue that, being Brian Albert, and he's got his buddy working for Canton Police Department who works out in that very same building. So how hard is that to get this accomplished? If that's what they want to argue, I don't know if they'll argue that, but that's what I'd argue if I was defending this case here in Texas.
Well, they have so many facts to support this too, which again make it helpful. I mean, that the cops abandoned the crime scene from the jump, and that gives opportunity. That the homeowner is in his home and could theoretically go out there. That the homeowner has a brother who's a detective on the Canton Police. That when the CERT team came out there, that there were 5 unknown people out there helping collect evidence. And that the CERT team was the wrong team. They're not even there to document their own evidence. They have Tully instead. And as Buchanan admitted, that the taillight definitely was discovered after they already had the vehicle. So, you marshal all of this together, and all of a sudden, what at first blush may sound tinfoil hat starts to sound more and more plausible.
The cover up that always gets them. That's the whole thing on this. It's just not being truthful. CLK asked, and I don't know what this is about, so I'm wondering if you guys do. Yeah. What do you think about the Bev's ruling on bringing in the Maryland case? What's that about?
It relates to Jessica Hyde.
Oh, it is that part. Okay.
Rejected as an expert for flawed methodology in a Maryland case on cell phone stuff, somewhat similar to this. And the judge didn't allow it. And you heard Brennan say that the defense was trying to malign Jessica Hyde by somehow arguing that your methodology is not accurate, not reliable. That's not maligning a witness. That's called impeaching a witness. Happens every day in America in every courtroom. But in Hank Brennan world, master gaslighter that he is, it's somehow maligning the expert. So the judge didn't allow it, even though there's a rule that says out of jurisdiction cases shall be received for this purpose. She relied on some other rule. This is one of those issues that if there is an appeal, which I don't think there will be, that's a major flag for an appeal, because if on top of everything you saw and a pretty effective cross-examination of Jessica Hyde yesterday, if the jury had known that you were rejected by a court for kind of similar, drawing these conclusions in a way that a court wouldn't even allow a jury to hear it, that's going to resonate with jurors. And the judge just didn't allow it. So I think that was a terrible decision. But I don't think it's going to matter. But yeah, I think that was wrong. And in the event of an appeal, that's a major point.
Question about Yuri. Do you think the Massachusetts State Police higher ups will talk to Yuri about his testimony and force him to cooperate because he's making the entire MSP look horrible?
No.
Do you think he'll get in any trouble for his testimony today?
No, I think it's business as usual. Look what happened with him in this trial. He got 5 days lost vacation. Nobody cares. You see the smirk on his face all day?
He thought it was funny.
You think the colonel cares? No, it's just a case. No, I think that if he was investigating a case tomorrow and testifying down the line, he'd have the same smug attitude that he had today.
Look at the deal with Proctor. Proctor only got in trouble because of the FBI investigation.
Right.
And then when it was handed to Morrissey's office, you think Morrissey sent it off to the state police to do anything about it? No, only when this scandal came out in the trial, that's when the state police goes, what the heck's going on with this Proctor guy? Oh my gosh. That's when they started the inquiry and disciplinary action against him. So it's, but for the FBI investigation and but for this being broadcast to the world, Proctor would still be testifying in this case.
Yep.
As a trooper. We don't know anything about the kind of conduct he was doing behind the scenes.
With honor and integrity.
Yeah.
Honor and integrity. Yeah, he couldn't say that.
He would say it. You'd never know if you didn't have the federal stuff.
Mimi says, if Commonwealth doesn't call Higgins, Alberts, etc., can the defense still ask questions the same way as it were a cross? This is what I'm interested in, because I haven't really seen this. I want to know, what is the real difference going to be?
So this is complicated. I mean, if the defense has to call these witnesses, presumably they have to conduct a direct examination, which is much worse. You can't lead, you can't attack, all that kind of thing, unless the judge in her discretion declares them a hostile witness, which usually would only happen if the witness is testifying in a way where they're being difficult. I mean, the irony is if they were calling Buchanan as a witness on their direct case today, most judges, I didn't say this one, most judges probably would have said, you can treat him as a hostile witness because of the way, how difficult this guy was. I mean, he was being a dick for the sake of being a dick and embarrassing himself, embarrassing his agency, and embarrassing the prosecution. He probably could have been declared a hostile witness. But if they call Brian Albert and he acts the way he acted at the first trial with his demeanor and he's answering questions, just because you don't like the answer is not a reason to have him declared hostile. He probably wouldn't be. So it's definitely tricky.
As much as, I said it earlier about how on redirect, Hank is very, very much leading. He's leading a whole lot, even on direct, not as bad as on redirect, but he is really leading. He's trying to tightly control the script. So I think, if he's doing that, then go ahead and do the same thing on defense. Just and I agree with Mark. This would be like a hostile witness type of ruling from the judge, but I don't think it will amount to that much difference in terms of the ultimate outcome and what kind of evidence you get out of them. And so I think not having the comfort of testifying and having Hank sort of hold your hand that whole time and direct, just try to bolster your courage to withstand the withering cross-examination. I think starting out with defense is more scary for the witness. So I think they could even get more mileage out of it this way.
That might be good. Here's a question. Do you think the defense should ask Brian how many times he has testified, Brian Elbert, to give his, his calmness some context to the jury?
Yeah.
Sonny Drop.
I mean, he was a police officer. He testified. He's obviously comfortable. There's nothing improper about that in establishing that, you've been down this before. You've been to this rodeo before. Sure, why not?
That totally makes sense. Question about Senator Marchmore. Do you think they opened it up? I mean, I don't think they did. What do you think? Did they open up the Senator Birchmore door yet? Don wants to know. And will the defense even want to go there?
I mean, unless I missed something yesterday, I don't think so. I mean, I'm not sure how they would have.
There was an offhanded comment, I think, from Buchanan, where he said something about death by hanging, and I think that's what people are kind of grasping onto. But I don't think it was really direct about Senator.
I don't know. That's kind of a weird thing to say. What did he say exactly?
He was talking about manners of death or something like that.
No, probably not. No. I mean, look, if they were going to do it, they were going to do it with Guarino, right? And they didn't even cross-examine him, period. So, no, I think the Birchmore ship has sailed for this case.
Yeah.
You think so too, Carl?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that would open the door. I mean, you'd sort of be tempted to go down that avenue, especially with the guy that the trooper that didn't find the 30,000 emails that were incriminating. I was thinking maybe that'd be a time to go after it, but I don't think you want to have too many targets. You got to pick and choose your targets wisely on who you try to take out.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Odd Reels has a question. When will Sally Port video come in?
I think when you see the ultimate and final deconstruction of Buchanan on Monday, I would imagine this will be the last line of inquiry. They will have already destroyed him. The jury's already going to have problems with him. And then they're going to learn about this fiasco. I mean, that's a drop the mic, you're done, move away. There's a reason why the text messages haven't been crossed on yet. There's a reason why the evidence collection hasn't been crossed on yet. And most importantly, there's a reason why this hasn't been done yet, because they're leading up to it. They're going to discredit him and then just nuke him with this. The video is going to be the end of Buchanan.
Looking forward to that. That's going to be Monday, hopefully. Monday afternoon, it seems like they're doing something early. Do you have any idea what's going on in the morning? It seems like they're having some type of voir dire or something going on Monday morning where they're not having the jury there early.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't think anyone knows. We're starting to run out of time, but we still got a lot of questions. I want to thank you guys both for being here tonight. Did AJ say that Higgins was a former ATF agent? Or did he just insinuate that? Did anyone catch that? Did you see that? I've heard a lot of chatter about that too.
No, I didn't pick up on that one way or the other.
I didn't pick it up either. And I'm not going to comment on that one then. Where are all these questions? I'm trying to go around all the super chats. They put them all in the same folder, so it's hard to get back and forth. Here's a question they want to know: can the defense call Proctor? Of course they can. We've answered this a lot tonight, but just for people, they want to hear it again. Can the defense call Proctor? Can they call Higgins? They can, right? And should they? Is the question.
Sure, they can. To me, the interesting issue yesterday was what happens if the prosecution doesn't call Proctor and they don't try to introduce the text messages, but they kind of did. So at this point, I don't know how Brennan, if the defense were to call Proctor, would be able to object on any kind of grounds to keep the text messages out. So the question is, at this point, does the defense need to? I guess it's one of those wait and see. I mean, you know that they're blaming Proctor now for all of the Sallyport video, right? You know that. You also know that Buchanan can only speak to the text messages that relate to him or his group. And a lot of the bad text messages have nothing to do with him. So how are you getting those in except through Proctor? So, and at this point, they've made him, such a mess, and it's the one name everybody wants to see. I would do it if I were the defense. I would call him and I'd call Higgins. That's what I would do.
You thought that maybe having him be such like a boogeyman that they don't get to see might be better, where he doesn't testify at all.
Do you want those text messages in though about killing herself and blaming? Don't worry about the Boston cop.
Right.
Get a gift for this. I mean, you could go on and on.
The Fall River accent.
I mean, if your defense is that the cops are corrupt and incompetent, you want to half-ass that, or do you want to drive a truck
Right.
through the opening? And the reality is this: what are they going to do to fix Proctor? I mean, what are they going to do on and yes, they could cross-examine him. What are they going to do to make Proctor look good when it's established that he was terminated because of his conduct in this case, including for his bias against Karen, when the whole defense is you guys are corrupt and incompetent? I mean, he's house money to the defense. I would haul him in there, let him squirm, let him try to talk his way out of it. There's nothing he can do to help the prosecution.
Yeah, he's like a rebuttal witness to Buchanan, because when they go into all the other things he said about Karen, that is not with integrity and honor. So I look at him as like a rebuttal witness. You have to call him.
I would do it. And also, let's also bear in mind, they made a calculated decision to open on Proctor and call him a cancer, literally. You might, yes, they've bandied him about a little bit, but I would drive that home. I would definitely, as Carl said earlier, credibility, your own credibility. You're making promises that maybe you don't have to make, but you did talk about Proctor. I don't think just the cross of Buchanan would be satisfactory. And at the end of the day, he's beyond rehabilitation. There's nothing they can do to make Proctor look good. There's nothing that he can say that's going to make himself look good. I mean, he screwed up the search warrants. Not only that, there's an extra benefit with Proctor. He contradicts Jennifer McCabe on critical points. You want that? I mean, do you want all this stuff? You're going to have to do it through him.
Also, I think they do need to call Brian Albert, though, because you got to establish a face with who was up in that window that didn't come on out. We heard all this stuff about this Boston detective, and he never comes out. We want to see this guy. I mean, the jury's sort of like, we hear all this talk about him. Plus, he was the one that was over there when the interview happened at that house, right? He went over there and was listening in and making sure things are handled. So that's why I call him the fixer. And look who's Jen's calling right away when the FBI shows up to her house. He's one of the first persons he calls. So he's got a lot of his fingerprints and DNA on all this suspicious activity. So the jury absolutely needs to see him.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. He's like the Iceman too. Like I feel like they will get the fixer vibe, even though he is like I think you both made good points about him tonight. He's a good, he testifies well, but still you can't cover up that the way he looks, for instance, just his mannerisms. It's just obvious. So I think that's so true.
He's one of those witnesses where if you look at the video, it's a lot more impressive than if you look at the cold record, just the paper transcript. Because a lot of his testimony the first time around, it wasn't great. It didn't make a hell of a lot of sense. But when you see him deliver it, it did give him a little bit more believability, credibility, and they just have to make a decision. But yeah, I mean, I think him, Higgins, and Proctor, you do it. I mean, and the other thing is, there's no real ground that the prosecution can gain with these witnesses. I mean, in the best case scenario, they're going to say, I don't know anything. They're not going to harm Karen other than saying, whoa, John O'Keefe never came in the house. Other than that, they cannot harm her, but they can do a lot of damage to the prosecution. So if I'm weighing that, bring it on.
These other witnesses, the first responders that didn't, that haven't testified, that didn't hear Karen say, I hit him. Would you bring them up, especially the ones that were standing right there next to Katie McLaughlin?
That's a tough call, but it also is illustrative of how Brennan tries the case. He cherry picks a few good ones, tell him what he wants, and then we pretend the other ones never happened. We're just going to pretend that the cops who first responded didn't respond and are irrelevant because they would contradict what was said. So I might call like Sarif if I were the defense, maybe, because he's going to contradict what they say. I mean, are you really going to call all these witnesses to fight over, I hit him, based upon the fact that, like, you know, they did a lot of damage through Katie McLaughlin, right? Who really kind of kneecapped Nuttall, right? I mean, he was in the ambulance with the door closed. It's obvious that guy was told after the fact. I mean, that just seems clear. But I'm not sure I would start calling all of these people because I think they've done a pretty good job discrediting this or making it at least appear to be a question. But that's an interesting evaluation.
Question, what do you think, Carl? Would you bring them up? Would you bring up Saraf, for instance?
Maybe Saraf at most, but I think like Mark's saying, it's like, I think they got enough mileage out of on cross-examination that, you know, even if she said those kind of things, it's not a big deal because she's freaking out. And like the analogy I use, if you thought you hit your dog when you're going to work in the morning, you come home, you see your dog laying there and you don't know because you have no indicators that you ran over it, you'd blame yourself. So I think she was under the influence as well. So I just look at that as really a non-significant factor, and it's not a confession of any sorts. We heard that jury one didn't think it was a confession.
Yeah. The one witness I'm calling the neighbor at the house next to the fire hydrant for two critical reasons. Actually, three critical reasons. Number one, the car accident, if you believe the DA's theory, started in front of their house. Mm-hmm. I mean, the screeching of the tires and slamming it in a reverse, if it ends up by the flagpole, is primarily in front of them. They obviously didn't hear that, theory being it didn't happen, right? Number two, the ruckus, if you will, the next morning is closer to the Albert house. They came out.
ChatGPT to answer that. You can enable ChatGPT on your Mac.
Sorry, I guess Siri is telling you.
Siri's listening.
Siri, that's creepy.
It is creepy.
They came out of their house. They did hear. And there's a picture that's floating out there, and you can see the fire hydrant, you can see the flagpole, but what you can really see is that's all much closer to the Albert house. They didn't come out, these people did. And then the other point that you could establish is once, I mean, they could even ask Buchanan this, maybe he will on Monday, I would. The theory was there was a car accident that started in front of the other house. I think it's 32. Is that the address, 32 Fairview?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you and Proctor do a canvas? Did you knock on doors? Did you seek video? Answer is going to be no. And if you're going to shit on them for doing a bad investigation, that's the best way to do it. Because any police officer will tell you 101, where you're trying to find out what happened and you don't have eyewitnesses in a neighborhood, is you knock on doors and ask, did you hear? Did you see pictures, video? And if the answer is no, the answer is no. But they didn't even try that. Because and that makes no sense. So that's somebody I would definitely call.
Would you ask them if they heard a dog? If they heard Chloe? Because I think that would be interesting to see if they heard Chloe, those neighbors that came out.
Yeah. I mean, there's no real wrong answer, right? I mean, if they didn't, they didn't. But if they did, that would be troubling. But I'd be asking all the cops. I mean, well, apparently all the cops are not testifying. Lake apparently he's not testifying. Tully is not testifying. Did you hear a dog? I mean, you heard no testimony when they visited the Alberts at 7 a.m. or 6:30. Never mind the fact that Jennifer McCabe told this story where the dog wasn't there, it didn't wake up. Well, at some point the dog wakes up. Now there's like 10 people in the house. You're a dog guy, Mike. I'm a dog guy. When dogs wake up, what do they need to do? They need to go
out.
They
But
need-
yeah, if you have 10 people in your house, though,
They're making noise.
dogs are going crazy. Even if they're happy dogs with no behavioral issues, because they're excited, they want to sniff,
Right.
they want to see who's here. Like, oh, look, all these new people, like
They're gonna do that, and somebody is gonna feed the dog or let the dog out.
yeah,
Did anybody see that? There's no evidence that anybody did, and that's weird.
it is weird. The dog situation always. I just don't know. And now we found out today, which is people were when it was streaming today in the chat, people were freaking out when they found out the name was Cora. They changed the name of the dog to Cora. It just gets so much more interesting. If I adopted the dog, I would have changed the dog's name too, which normally I would never do to a dog, but in this situation, just to protect the dog from all the speculation, you know what I mean? Like I think that like Chloe people are looking for Chloe everywhere. So
I just who gives away a dog? I mean, that's again, as a dog owner, to me, it's just an impossible thing.
Yeah, usually it only happens if someone loses their housing. They go into a nursing home, or like if it's a really bad bite, they can't control the dog. The dog becomes uncontrollable. But I mean, the dog did have a bite history, but it just
most people would, even with that issue, they would try to work with it.
That's it. That's what I would do. I would get a trainer and make sure that dog never gets loose again. That dog was getting loose. That was the problem. It seemed like.
I mean, the old adage, if you're a dog person, it's never a dog's fault. It's the person's fault for whatever.
Exactly. I'd do whatever I could to protect that dog. That's what I would do. Yeah.
By all accounts, their instinct was get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's
which
weird.
says a lot about them, actually. I think that actually shows a lot to their character. Where, I mean, these aren't people that were struggling for housing, where they, you know what I mean? Like, I know they did sell their house, but I don't know. It does seem.
No, people don't get rid of dogs if they don't have to.
Yeah.
They don't. I mean, look, you factor that in. They sold the house. They redid the basement. I mean, you could go on and on. Does it prove anything? No. But when you pile fact on fact on fact, it becomes part of the argument that there's a lot of weirdness going on here that's unexplainable. And getting rid of the family dog. And not only that, I believe the testimony from Nicole Albert did not fit what you heard today. Didn't she testify a year ago that I drove it and like met someone at a rest stop and said, God bless, take our dog? Now today you're finding out there was a middleman. I mean, this is crazy. That's not. Which is it?
This one I have no idea on. Red Tail. I don't know if any of us know anything about this. Red Tail is saying Bev had a complaint. Was it a juror yesterday and tried to apologize and has not been micromanaging since? Do you know who made the complaint which bothered her enough to change her behavior? Do you know anything about this?
The only thing I can think of is when she said, and this might have been 2 days ago, when she said to Bob, when he asked to approach, she said, "This is the last time," which was totally inappropriate, editorializing, like, I don't want to deal with this. And then after lunch, she basically said, "Oh, the lawyers are just doing their job and you shouldn't draw anything," which means the defense obviously went up there and said, "Are you kidding me right now? You can't do that." And she recognized that was just another example of her overt apparent bias by editorializing on what she agrees with and doesn't disagree with. I mean, that was totally inappropriate when she said that.
But then she goes on to promise them there'll be less sidebars, which, okay, what does that mean? You're going to not allow defense come up and have sidebars? Or are you going to start doing your job and overriding the prosecution's objections? So, then she also made a cover. I forgot to mention this. So, this whole issue with the botched evidence bag and the shoe, she made an explanation to the jury. Oh, this kind of thing happens when you have a lot of evidence to gather in a courtroom. So she's making an excuse again for that botched evidence scene. And so it's always this day after day. You don't have to wait long before you see something where she's doing to bail out the prosecutor.
A lot of that going on. We are up over 2 hours. I want to thank you both for being here tonight. What are your final thoughts you want to leave? Anything that we didn't talk about tonight? Anything you're looking forward to Monday? We'll start with Mark Bederow, and then we'll go to Carl Steinbeck.
Listen, I think the defense probably had their best day yet. I mean, they've had a lot of good days, but if this is the way the prosecutor is going to do it and they're going to hide witnesses, the cross you saw of Proctor, I think, was a master performance at Proctor of Buchanan. It's not even done. I think that it was just a masterclass in how to do cross-examination, which will continue. And at that point, I don't know what's left for the prosecution to do other than call their accident reconstruction person, call the telematics guy or whatever. At some point, establish how John O'Keefe died, which they still have not done, through a doctor, and they're using like a neurologist for that, and go from there. But from what I've seen so far, I guess it's 3 weeks through it. The defense is doing very well, and the word I've used previously is that the prosecution, it's been rocky, and it remains rocky. And today was, I think, as rocky as it's been. It is not supposed to be this complicated in their case in chief when they're dictating what the evidence ought to be. And I think they're having a real difficult time.
Celtics doing. I heard they weren't doing as well. I haven't been keeping up with it. I probably should. They're down. The Knicks are winning. What's going on, Mark?
Tomorrow is it. That's the bottom line. Tomorrow is Waterloo for them. If they lose tomorrow, they're cooked. I think if they win tomorrow, they win the series, but they have humiliated themselves. They lost 2 games in the exact same fashion, blowing 20-point leads at home in the playoffs, defending champions late in the third quarter. That should never happen once. The fact that it happened twice is just disgraceful. They've had problems at home all season with focus. It should never happen in the playoffs. And their coach picked a hell of a time to have the worst game that I've ever seen a coach in any sport manage. I mean, he did things that were so stupid. The basketball people will understand this. They're trying to, foul a terrible free throw shooter to get in the bonus at the wrong time of the game, not realizing that the Knicks will just take them out. They did. And then, in the game-winning shot for the Knicks, they won on free throws. How come? Because they were in the bonus, because these idiots, it was bad. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. They're in New York now, and it's been tough to be around here because, everyone's all jacked up on Knicks stuff around here. So
God bless you. Being in New York and being a Celtics fan, that's something. Carl, you have any final thoughts? Anything that we didn't discuss tonight? Anything you want to share? Or anything you're looking forward to?
I just think you got 2 different approaches. You got the prosecutor acting like defense, trying to hide the ball. You got the defense trying to show the ball, and the prosecutor's trying to steal it from them. So I think defense is going to keep showing the ball, despite the judge always trying to pull the ball away out of their hands. And I think the truth is going to keep being steamrolled to show that Kieran Reed should be found not guilty. So I think there's going to be some more surprises that come up and some really gold nugget opportunities for the defense with their different witnesses. And I think the other witnesses that are coming up, you're telling me these other witnesses that are in the house, they're not going to be looking at how bad we have Buchanan now in the stand. That's sort of intimidating for them. So I think they have a psychological edge for these other witnesses. And the snowball effect is going to psychologically make them even more afraid to go in that courtroom. And so I think there's going to be some more big blunders that come out of this case from the prosecution.
Hope so. I just I want this to blow up. I want this to them to self-destruct as much as possible so more truth comes out. Thank you guys so much. You're the best. Just everyone's so happy that you're here. You answered everyone's questions. It's a great honor to have you both here tonight. Former prosecutors, criminal defense. You guys are all about justice. Thank you so much. If you're not following them, Bederow Law on Twitter, at Bederow Law on Twitter. He's also got the website, Bederow Law. You can look it up, bederowlaw.com. Thank you so much, Mark Bederow. And Carl Steinbeck, you can follow him on Twitter as well and YouTube. We want to get him up even more subscribers tonight. It's pinned at the top of the chat. Make sure you follow all his social media as well. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll talk real soon. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, take care. Good seeing you all.
Yep.
That was great. I want to thank Carl and Mark Bederow. Phenomenal. That was unbelievable. 2 hours went by like it was 10 minutes. I'm sorry. There were a lot more questions I wanted to ask. I tried to ask them all. There were more questions I had started. Just these guys are so good. I'm so happy. That was I think we broke records tonight. I mean, that was amazing. We had over 12,000 here on the YouTube channel for the Young Jerks, and over a couple thousand on Carl's channel. We had over 15,000 watching tonight. Even more if you look on the other social media channels we were on. I even saw a couple people watching on Twitch tonight. Usually we never get on over that one person on Twitch. We got over 2 people tonight on Twitch. It was unbelievable. Facebook, a lot of people watching on Facebook and Twitter tonight as well. I want to thank you all. I'm going to read all the super chats if I can. There's also some Venmos. Wow, you guys, I'm going to try to read them all. I'm also going to play a little video. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break right now. I'm going to play a little video. Then I'm going to come back and read all the super chats. Again, I want to thank Carl Steinbeck and Mark Bederow. I really appreciate them being here. I still see them listening in the green room. They can definitely stay if they'd like to. I just letting them know they don't have to stick around. I know sometimes the StreamYard, I'm realizing this with guests, is that StreamYard gives them like some kind of message sometimes that says they have to stick around until the recording's over. We don't do that. We don't keep the recordings like that. So any guests that ever come here, you do not have to stick around and keep your browser open if you don't want to. If you want to stay and listen, that's great. I really appreciate those guys. Attorney Mark Bederow, make sure you give him a follow. Bederow Law. And Carl Steinbeck, he's also on Twitter and YouTube. Phenomenal show tonight. Tomorrow, I also have a huge show tomorrow at 1:30. Going to have a new attorney on, another criminal defense attorney from Ohio. He's been covering the Karen Reed case, and as well as Turtle Boy. I want to talk to him about Turtle Boy tomorrow, too. LawTube Sean, potentially criminal is his YouTube. He's going to be on tomorrow with me at 1:30 p.m. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a first-time guest, a new criminal defense attorney on the show. Really excited for that as well. So make sure you come back tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe, you follow us, and you come back tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 p.m. Central. Tomorrow, Saturday, we'll be live again. I'm really looking forward to that. Let me just bring up, I'm just going to bring up a little Yuri. Watch a little Yuri while I take a quick little break here. Take out my doggy real quick, and then I'll come back and I'll read a bunch of super chats. But I figured we would just review a little bit of Yuri before I go through all the super chats. So let's do that now. And I thank everyone who's sticking around with me right now.
Brian Higgins. If you do not find that it is more likely true than not that Ms. Reed was the person who authored or created or transmitted the electronic communication, or Brian Higgins was the person who authored or created or transmitted the communication, then you may not consider that electronic communication at all in deciding your case. Now, if you do, if it gets past that and you do find that that burden has been met, these messages are not being offered to show the truth of the statement. They're simply to show that this information was in fact provided to the Mass State Police for their investigation. Those are the instructions. All right, with that, Mr. Jackson, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate that.
Yes, I'm going to let the witness have that pack. Oh, he's got one. Oh, you know what, Chrissy, I'll take one back. The one for ID will now be the exhibit, and I'll take the other one.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sergeant Buchanan, do you have a document in front of you that's been marked as Exhibit 115?
I do.
If you could, starting at the beginning, do those purport to be text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed?
Yes, they are.
Does that printout accurately reflect what you received in electronic form from Brian Higgins during your interview?
Yes.
Okay. If you could start at the beginning and read the text string indicating the date of the text, if it's dated, who it's from, who it's to, and the content.
Yes, sir. The text messages begin Wednesday, January 12th at 8:27 p.m. Incoming text message to Brian Higgins' phone from Karen Reed. Hey, Brian, it's the weed whacker. The response is a question mark, followed by a picture of a six-pack of Smirnoff Ice screwdriver in appears to be a package store cooler, followed by a YO response, and that is it for January 12th, Wednesday. Do you want me to continue, sir?
Yes. May I have just a moment, Your Honor? Going back to the Smirnoff container, that was from whom and to whom? For the picture of the Smirnoff.
It appears it was from Brian Higgins to Karen Reed.
Okay. If you could make sure to delineate from whom and to whom each text is
Every time?
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, and go ahead and proceed.
Thursday, January 13th, 9:24 a.m. From Karen Reed to Brian Higgins. Did you try those Smirnoff? There is a haha acknowledgement response to that text message by Brian Higgins. The next page, it's the same bubble, but continue on the next page. I will repeat. Did you try those Smirnoff screwdrivers? Question mark. I stopped at the Hilly for one last night. A Bitmoji showing teeth. That is sent from Karen Reed to Brian Higgins.
If you could, and I hate to ask this of you, but if you could tell us who it's from before the content, for instance, from Karen Reed to Brian Higgins, content. That would just be a little easier, I think,
Okay.
in flow.
The last one was from Karen Reed. She stated, did you try those Smirnoff? And that she stopped by at the Hilly last night for one. From Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, haha, followed by same person. How did you get my digits? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Karen Reed to Brian Higgins, the Melissa and Leto show. Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, ha ha. Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, I thought you creeped John's phone. Brian Higgins to Karen Reed, ha ha. Karen Reed to Brian Higgins, no way, with an emoji, X person holding an X in front of them. I was the last person in Greeter, Canton, who didn't have your pound sign, number sign. I think even Carrie has it.
I'm going to see counsel at sidebar for just a minute, please.
Let's remove this. I'm going to probably play a little more of that to close out the show. It's so good to watch it all. Oh, let me turn off my phone. Hold on. All right. Um, let's do this. One moment here. I'm gonna read all the super chats for you. All right, let's do this. First thing I gotta do is I have to read some Venmos. There were some Venmos that came in this week I didn't get to thank. While we're streaming all week. So let me get to the Venmos real quick first. I want to thank everybody who's been kicking in and supporting us. Let me check Cash App first, too. That's one I don't check. I usually don't have as many Cash Apps so I can get through them quickly. I'm not sure if I thank this person. This was from like a week ago with Mike Walsh, Mike W. He said, it was great meeting you at the party. Thank you so much, Mike, for the $20 donation. After we met up at that party, that was a great party where I got to dance a little bit. That was awesome. I want to thank everyone for that Karen Reed fundraiser. I saw Jody was in the chat tonight. So many great people tonight in the chat. It was so funny. I'm watching Mazza Media. I think I saw Microdots. I saw so many awesome people, and I try to click on their comments to put them on the screen. I couldn't get them in time, and then they disappear because there were so many comments coming in tonight. The chat was a little wild tonight. It was hard to keep up with you all. I want to thank you, everybody who's been sending all the comments tonight. Beth B sent $20 on Venmo. She said, awesome show, Mike. Mark and Carl are such knowledgeable and trustworthy voices. Thank you for hosting Free Karen Reed. Aren't they? Aren't we so lucky that we have them too? Bederow is amazing. Obviously, everyone knows. Carl too. These guys are both for justice. I just, such an honor to have them on this platform and to be able to just sit down and talk to them for a couple hours and ask them all the questions. And to do it on my platform, I am, it humbles me. It does. It humbles me. It just to shut up and let them talk too. It's just the best. A couple times I got a little excited tonight, and I was starting to interject when they were talking and to pull back a little bit because it's great to see them. It was just so. I was looking forward to this tonight. It was a perfect night for it. Kelly L sent $10 on Venmo. She says, thank you for your coverage. Free Karen Reed, FTB. Thank you so much, Kelly L. Deborah M sent $25. And Deborah says, thank you for tonight's show. Thank you so much, Deborah M. I really appreciate that. Denise E. Denise E sent $50 today. She sent this during the live stream today that we did. We were live streaming from court. She said, thank you, Mike, for all you do, especially to Free Karen Reed. Thank you so much, Denise E. That was $50. I really appreciate that. You don't even know. Also, Virginia M. also sent $50 on the Venmo today. Same thing. She said, donation. Thank you so much, Virginia M. I really appreciate those donations. Brandy I also sent $20 yesterday, I believe it was. She said, for covering the Karen Reed trial. Thank you so much, Brandy I. Mary Ball sent $10 yesterday. She said, thank you. That was actually a couple days ago. I think that was on Wednesday. Thank you so much, Mary B. And I think I did thank Paula K. She sent $5. She said, Microdots may want to look at TB Daily News Can't Cover Up, episode 102. Judge Canoni worked with Colin's grandfather, which is how her brother represented Chris at 22. Great work today. Thank you so much, Paula K. So those are the Venmos. I want to thank everyone who's been supporting us. And also a lot of super chats tonight. I want to thank everybody who did the super chats. Amy McMullen became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. Susan E. Generous, thank you for the $2 donation. She says, for you and Karen Reed, Carl and Mark Secondary, get it. Thank you so much, Susan. Sue E. Generous. EB, she became a YouTube member tonight. Thank you so much, EB, tonight for becoming a YouTube member. Jacqueline Haley, Jackie, became a YouTube member. Thank you, Jacqueline. And Georgia Hello Kitty did as well. Thank you. A lot of new members today. Thank you so much. Melissa K said $4.99. She says, are you telling me that Chloe went into the witness protection program? That's what it sounds like now. Cora needs to get her life together. I hope Cora's doing well. I really do. I hope she's got a peaceful home with owners that know how to handle a difficult dog, and I hope that she's doing much better. Environment means a lot for people and dogs, and I hope that she's in a safe environment. Yeah, she does seem like she's in witness protection a little bit. Thank you, Glamour Sue. She's been a YouTube member now for 17 months. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Glamour Sue. She said Yuri showed his lack of respect for John O'Keefe. Wow. Thank you, Glamour Sue. Yeah, really, that's another good point. Not a lot of respect for the victim. You know? Does that look very, very respectful? You know? Great point, Glamour. Glamour Sue. I want to thank Glamour Sue. She's amazing. She does such a good contributor to the Karen Reed movement. One of the best things that she does is keep us all up to date on court hearings and Zoom hearings. And a lot of times when I get the Turtle Boy hearings up, it's because Glamour Sue has provided us, all of us YouTubers, a lot of information on how to stream those. So I want to thank Glamour Sue. She's amazing. Thank you so much, Glamour Sue. I also want to thank Sarah and Shark and Horror and all our moderators. We have the best mod team: MJ, Stephanie, Jeno, Scott McGinnis, and Sarah in Shock and Horror. Thank you so much. She's been a member for 10 months. She's one of our biggest supporters, so much so we decided to make her a moderator. She's always here. I love Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah in Shock and Horror. I really appreciate the mod team that we have on the Young Jerks. Our chat is so... everyone always comments that they love our chat, and I think a lot of it comes from our mod team. We have such good mods. Thank you so much, Sarah, MJ, Stephanie, Jen, and Scott McGinnis. Tanya Vincent, she sent Canadian 279, says, Brennan's a cerebral strategist. He's great. Is he really? You think it was great today with how he handled Yuri? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's doing great. I just don't. And I think today when they did the text messages, I thought that was so effective in showing that Yuri did not give a shit about anyone getting fingered for John O'Keefe's murder except for Karen Reed. They were on a one track. They were a one-trick pony. So I don't think he's a strategist. Maybe you're being sarcastic. I'm thinking maybe you are. It's tough to know. It's tough to know when someone's trolling or someone's serious now, because some of the trolls it seems like a joke. So I'm going to assume you're joking. Thank you, Tanya. Amy Ennis says, was Yuri impaired? He was belligerent, talked slow, slurred, responses delayed, body language screamed, lying, and I don't care. Something is really off. Beside him being a disgrace and embarrassment, I don't think he was I don't think he was under the influence or anything. I just think that's him. You know, I just wonder too, like if, you know, how cocky and arrogant he is. I think that's what it is. He's on the cocky arrogance drugs, you know, like that I just wonder if he's so cocky and arrogant this weekend. Like if I was him, I would probably be freaking out all weekend thinking about, holy shit, what am I going to say on Monday? But I just have a feeling he thinks he did well. I don't know. It just seems like he's very arrogant. And I think that's what he's on. He's on arrogance. He's on thinking his shit don't stink. Thank you so much, Amy. I think that super chat came in to Carl Steinbeck tonight, which is nice. I'm glad that Carl's getting some super chat love over there too. Gigi sent $4.99, says, I feel Hank has put all his chips on his experts at this point, right? That's all he has in the recordings of Karen. I mean, that's his whole case. His experts stink. He's got nothing conclusive. All he's got is Karen saying some stuff. I mean, that's about it. Tanya also says many FKRs are switching sides. Are they? I don't see many FKRs as switching sides. I haven't seen that at all. Maybe I'm missing something, but I haven't noticed it. You know, besides like the Kevins of the world, which happened a long time ago. I haven't really seen a lot of Kevins out there that are switching sides. Maybe they're not. I'd love to hear from them. You know, if you switch side, I'd love to hear why. And again, I'm not someone who's going to put you on blast or expose you to the world. I don't want people to get harassed on their feelings about this case. English Kate sends $4.99, says in a normal murder trial, would the jury have been shown medical reports and injury photos by now, right? You would think. I mean, I think that's a big part of what Carl and Mark were saying tonight. Like, where's the beef? Where's the evidence? They've shown nothing. They're not even going to put the medical examiner on the stand. I mean, they got a couple experts left. Geez, I don't know. Not looking good. Great point, English Kate. Thank you so much, English Kate. Glamour Sue says total cost to date exceeds $2 million. Can you imagine that? They're going to spend over $2 million to retry Karen Reed. It's unbelievable. I'm trying to think. One of the attorneys I recently spoke to, I don't even know if it was on the show or offline, but they were noting, I'm wondering who it was. You probably remind me if you know, you watched, but one of the attorneys recently said, like, how much money is not getting spent on other cases? Like, think about how this takes money away from expert testimony for other cases. Their budget isn't unlimited. They only have so much money to spend. It's a lot. It's a lot to be spending. Jay Coop says, congratulations to the Boots for winning their laws. Yeah, that it seems like it's going to be a big win for the Boots on the ground in terms of the buffer zone. They're going to have to redo the buffer zone ruling. They're going to have to come up with a, you know, the lower court is going to have to reconsider it with the state. And I think the state's going to have to come up with new buffer zone rules. And I don't think they're going to be able to exclude someone like me who's just standing on the sidewalk looking to interview people. How are they going to exclude me now if I'm not protesting? So I'm happy about that. Next Friday, maybe I'll show up. Maybe I'll be able to stand outside the courthouse on the sidewalk again and do my job as a journalist. You know, maybe they'll allow that. I'm very happy about that ruling. I want to thank the attorneys Rendaza and his whole crew. Congratulations to them. Letters by Bederow sent $10 and says, AJ asked Yuri what Higgins was wearing in the waterfall video on purpose. Guarantee you Higgins is wearing a different shirt in the CPD video we haven't seen yet because it was kept from the defense. Wow, that's a good point. That's interesting. Yeah, I definitely recall they were looking at John O'Keefe, what he was wearing, but I didn't really have any significance to Higgins. But that's an interesting comment. Letters by Bederow. Hold on, I got to go back to the super chats. I got lost here. Oh, I missed this comment too from Sarah. She says, another great show, Mr. Jelly. Hi, Charlie. Charlie's actually upstairs. He was trying to get down tonight, but I just left him up with his mama. He stays out of trouble. When he comes down here, he gets into trouble for some reason. He thinks this is his trouble zone. Laura says, best after show, hands down. Thank you, Uncle Mike. Oh, thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate that. Thank you for always watching, supporting, making comments, and super chats. I really appreciate your support. Tanya, Vincent. Oh, we did read that one. Okay. I think I'm repeating myself. Yeah, we got that one. Okay. Hold on one second. Here's one. TG says, TG is also another frequent super chatter. Thank you so much, TG, for sending $10. Says, Mike's giggling back there is gold. Was I giggling a little bit? Probably giggling excitement tonight. Just like, look at I loved it. It was so good to bring them two together. I hope they enjoyed it as much as I did. English Kate says, in a normal trial, would the jury have been shown medical reports and injury photos by now, right? I mean, you would think so. I think I already did read these. Yes, I did. See, I'm going back. I'm sorry. I'm going to be here all night if I keep repeating them. I did read this one, right? Yes, I did. Okay, let's get back to this one. My nurse, Kel, said 199. She said unfortunately, officers get fired or retired. Yeah, right? Unfortunately, they get fired. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, Michael Proctor got fired. Leave on me, said 499, says, what are your thoughts on police reports not being made for over 500 days? Oh my God, right? This is Massachusetts' lack of transparency. I mean, they cover everything up. You know? Thank you, Lena on me. Reality Check says, what were the best moments for the defense today? I think it was just reading those texts. I think it's exactly what Mark Bederow said, too. Like, the final point was the killer, is that you have this love triangle. You have a motive. You have a guy that's sending text messages to Karen Reed and John O'Keefe that night who's gesturing, all that stuff going on, and you don't even consider it. You don't even consider there could be any other possibility but that Karen hit him from go. I think that was the best part. The Buchanan showed how little he gave a shit about actually looking at all the angles in the John O'Keefe death. I think that was the best part today. And like Mark said, and Carl said, the best is yet to come. You know, we still haven't even gotten to Sallyport. We still haven't gotten to all the juicy stuff. And it's already not good for Yuri. Sandy B said $5, said he's arrogant and power hungry like most state troopers, right? That's a problem. You know, if they're, you know, it's so funny how they select for state troopers and they put them through this program and a lot of them don't make it through the training. There should be some type of program or training or screening to make sure that you're not an egomaniac, arrogant son of a bee. You know? There should be. Maybe the new colonel should look into that. Grampum sent $4.99, says the latest microdots video has sealed it for me. Best video ever to show who did it and why. Wow. Yeah, I got to check that out. I started to watch some of it and I was like, oh boy, I didn't have time. I had to get ready for the show. So that's probably the next thing I'm going to do tonight. Everybody's been talking about it. I love Microdots. He's got two YouTube channels, Microdots and Microdot Clips. Definitely check him out. Make sure you subscribe and follow. He's a great guy too. Thank you for the super chat tonight. Reality Check said $4.99 again. She says, is it me or do the waterfall videos more foggy this time? And what the F with the timestamp blocking the view? Huh. They did seem a little bit less clear. Yeah, I don't, and you're right about that. That was the other thing that was bugging me. That's very good observations. I almost felt like it's me, like me sometimes. Sometimes you'll see us have tickers or titles or even this Young Jerks logo on the right hand corner. Every once in a while, I'll get rid of them during a live stream because I see that it's blocking something that everyone wants to watch on the screen. So I'll remove the logo every once in a while, or sometimes I'll remove a title or the super chat comments, etc. And it felt like that today. It was like, geez, why can't they just remove that damn timestamp so you can see clearly what is going on? I did notice that. And you're right, it didn't seem as clear today. I think it seemed like that was coming from the defense. I'm not sure if that was just an oversight. But I think they got the point. I mean, I don't think it ruined the effect of the video. Even though it would have been better without the timestamp. Pro Gamer sent $10 and says, wow, amazing, Carl, Mark, and Mike. Yes, thank you. I know, that's the way I felt tonight. I got to say, I was a little bummed last night when Bederow hit us up and was like, we need to reschedule. I haven't had enough time to go over it. But I was also relieved because I'm going through a lot of stuff too right now, dealing with some other things going on. And I didn't have enough time to really review everything and get to watch everything like I did today. I watched everything today. It was amazing. So, you know, always a little bummed when you have to reschedule a show. But when you find out that Bederow is going to go on with Steinbeck on Friday night, it was like, yeah, let's do this. And it lived up to it. It was amazing tonight. Thank you so much, Programmer. I think you're watching on Carl's channel. If you're not, make sure you subscribe. I have a feeling you are since you're sending super chats. Thank you so much, Programmer, for watching tonight and sending super chat. Corey W. sent $5 and said, was the Commonwealth really going to try to use fake dog records to try to disprove the bite marks? Yeah, they were. That's exactly what they wanted to do. Yeah, what a joke, right? What a joke. Like that, and you know, it's think about how much money and time they spent on that. And to think, like, I don't think the judge would have ever allowed it. And then you can tell they're not even going to go there. I doubt it. But I feel like that's what they wanted to do, which is, that's what they invested in. Such a good comment, observation. Thank you, Corey. Zach Butson said $10 and said, any chance Yuri went into his testimony thinking he was going to be in the same role, only to realize he was the Proctor Higgins Albert surrogate? Would explain his demeanor change after lunch. I know, right? I mean, was he that unprepared? Probably. That's another excellent observation. Thank you so much, Zach. You all make such, you know, you don't miss anything. And that's what I love about the comments in the chat and why I read all your comments, because I learn from the chat a lot. And that is such a good point. I wonder if he didn't realize it. He was so unprepared. It's amazing how, what Bederow said tonight, Brennan has not prepared these folks. TG says, go Knicks. Oh, that might be blasphemy around here. It's okay with me. You can tell I'm not that much into pro sports anymore. When I was a kid watching them, I like sports. I like playing them, but you know, since Karen Reed started, I don't have time for Knicks, Celtics. I don't have time for anything. All I'm doing is Karen Reed 24 hours. Maybe when that ends, I'll start watching WWE wrestling again. That's what I used to do. $5. Deke Artie 151 says if the defense calls them, then they leave Brennan in a familiar position as a defense attorney on cross. He can lead the witness in questioning. Yeah, but where's he going to lead it to? You know, these are his witnesses. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what's he going to do with Proctor on cross to save? I mean, there's nothing he can do to say. Like, what better? I always quote Bederow and Carl. I mean, because they know what they're talking about, and it makes so much sense. Like, how can Brennan save Proctor? There's nothing that Proctor can do that's going to save his testimony, and there's no way that Hank Brennan can lead Proctor to a place where he has any credibility. So no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. And I think that by not calling those witnesses, it shows how weak this prosecution is, both to the jurors, but also all of us watching at home and all the legal pundits. And I mean, I look at LawTube right now. A lot of these LawTubers some of them have tried to play both sides in the middle, and you can see where they're going again. They're going right back to where they always have ended up going, and that's back to Karen Reed. That Karen Reed is innocent. Because look at this prosecution. You know, even the ones who try to be in between and halfway and play both sides, it's becoming harder and harder to do that. Haley sent $9.99. She said, do you think the jury is picking up on the repetition rehearsed statements, honor, integrity, if that's what the document says? Oh, yeah. I think they're picking up on it. I think they're also picking up on the fact that Yuri couldn't even give an answer on simple yes or no questions. and that he was so obstinate, that he was so standoffish. He didn't want to admit about Proctor. He didn't want to talk about Proctor. So yeah, I think the jury picked up on everything from today. I do believe that. Kathleen R sent $10. She says, I haven't seen anyone expound on Matt McCabe's text. If she doesn't plead, it will be an episode, be pleasant hours before Karen Reed was arrested. Thoughts? I mean, I think that text is going to be a big part when he's on the stand. That's one of my, one of the witnesses I'm looking forward to seeing the most, Proctor and McCabe, even more than, Higgins. I'm looking forward to Higgins, but I love Matt McCabe on the stand because his text, just as much as, Higgins, a lot of, sus stuff happening there. So, Kathleen, I think it's going to come up. I think it's definitely coming up. So I think that's where we may be watching that next week. If the prosecution closes quickly, I'm wondering, that's probably a question I should ask them tonight. Who's the defense going to call first? Is it going to be Proctor? Is it going to be, who do you think? Who will they actually call first? Will it be McCabe? Will it be someone for Karen? Maybe will they put Archer on the stand? I think it's probably going to be Archer again. I think it's going to be the experts, and then you bring in the Proctors of the world, but maybe they'll start with Proctor. I mean, that's going to be something to see, who does the defense actually bring up? Opinionated Granny says, why are they prohibited from calling Colin Albert? They're not. They could definitely call Colin Albert. It's just that they're prohibited from naming him as a third-party culprit. And the thing about Colin Albert is kind of has an alibi, and it's kind of hard to shake, even though it seems kind of shaky. So I don't know if Colin Albert does that much for you. I mean, I think that's the point. The defense is going to be left in a position, and the prosecution is like, what does this witness do for our case? And for the prosecution, I don't think Colin Albert helps them at all. I don't think he hurts them. And I think that's the same for the defense. He just doesn't move the ball forward. Not like Proctor, not like Buchanan, not like, these other two that we keep talking about, Matt McCabe and Higgins. They have major issues that they're going to talk about with their texts. And so I just think that they could call him, but they probably won't. Donna sent $5 and said, Yuri is holding the thick blue line, right? I mean, that's pretty much all he's there for at this point. J.R. Cuber sent $5, says AJ needs to go over all the Sally Port fiasco videos with Yuri, right? So Cross is not close to being done. Exactly. I'd expect, it seems like they're going to have a delayed start on Monday, is from what I'm hearing. I'm not sure if that means they start at 10, 11, 12, or 1. But whenever they start, I expect hours of Cross left. So probably if they start after lunch, I expect that he's probably going to have him on the stand the rest of that day. So we'll see. Definitely, I expect a lot more Cross about the Sally Port and a lot of those other things that Attorney Bederow mentioned tonight. I want to thank Queen Olive Ruth Ann. She became a member tonight, a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Queen Olive Ruth Ann. Alicia Ramirez said $4.99. She says, how would you get the inverted video into evidence? Oh, that's easy. You put Yuri back on the stand and you put the video up and you ask him about it. I mean, that's how it's going to happen. They're going to have Yuri back on the stand. They're going to say, tell us about this video. Where did this video come from? When did you realize it was inverted? All of that. Who had custody over it? Who pulled it? Where did it come from? They're going to ask all those questions. They're going to go through the video. They're going to show the video. That's when it's going to get brought in. Thank you, Alicia. The Right Flux sent $2 Canadian. Says, when did this jury see what Higgins looks like? They saw him on the video today. So the jury has definitely seen Higgins. They've saw him, what I call the flat-footed wrestler. If you look at Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, you all, a lot of you know, I was a high school, college, USA wrestler, a wrestling coach at one point, high school wrestling head coach. So I've done a lot of wrestling. Love wrestling. And I'm just watching Higgins. You can definitely see his legs and his stance more. It's funny because Higgins looks like he knows what he's doing with his stance up top. But if you look at his legs, he like crosses them a lot, which wrestlers never cross. Your legs are apart. He doesn't look like he really knows like a fighting stance. Where Brian Albert does. Like you could tell Brian Albert to Brian Higgins, Brian Albert expert, Brian Higgins amateur. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like Higgins, to me, when I'm looking at them, knowing that both these guys are probably much bigger than me. I know Albert is. I'm assuming Higgins is much bigger than me too. But, I've competed or wrestled against bigger guys. I don't think I would have a chance at even scoring a point against Brian Albert because he's trained and he's big. But Brian Higgins, I think I would probably take him down in 5 seconds, honestly. Just looking at his footwork and how he's not on his toes. He's flat-footed. His legs cross. He doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. So they saw him. They saw him like I did, crossing his legs, and they saw Brian Albert get behind him and give him the bear hug, that was strange. That was true. As a wrestler, I might see some of my old wrestling friends, and we might, do that whole thing that they were doing, but I would never get behind them and do the bear hug. That is way too far. That's a way too far step. Cindy says, wonderful insight. Thank you so much, Cindy. Oh yeah, we already answered that. Thank you so much. I got Cindy. Thank you. Texas Tooth Fairy sent $4.99, says, thank you, gentlemen, for the truth. Oh, thank you for the super chat and supporting. Thank you so much, Texas Tooth Fairy. I love Texas. Carl is from Texas. If you ever need any legal help, he's there in Texas. Donna R. became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Donna Roush. What is this one? The Theater Fan became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Theater Fan. And they also gifted 5 Young Jerks memberships. Thank you so much. You've hooked up 5 of our people tonight. You're amazing. Thank you, Theater Fan. Michelle sent $4.99. She says, can you run through all the taxpayer resources have been spent over the last 3 years defending the McAlberts? The DA has no respect for the public. I wish I could. I wish we had that's what Channel 4, 5, 7, 25 should be doing. They should be documenting every expense. It's millions. They're going to have spent millions of dollars. And you even look at the security and the state police for the buffer zone, which is a joke. You know how much just alone they're spending on the state police to stand out there and harass people? Great point, Michelle. Maybe we should ask NBC and CBS and all the rest of them to do their job and find out. OnlyFan, all caps, the poor man's super chat. I know, right? I love the all caps. It tells you a lot about them right away. Janice Vetter. I love that. Vetter. It's not Vetter like my boy Eddie Vetter. It's Vetter. Janice Vetter sent $9.99. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Janice, for the donation tonight. I love your last name. OnlyFans sent $6.98 SGD. At least a $5 to post all caps, people. Deal. Great panel as always. I know, right? If you're doing all caps, it should be a $5 minimum. Dr. Russell Gass sent $19.99. Wow. Can the defense enter evidence on Higgins' text that Higgins may have redacted? I don't see why not. I don't see why not. I'm looking forward to Higgins, McCabe, Proctor. One of the questions I meant to ask tonight, I never asked them, is if they think the defense should actually call Tommy Kelleher, who lived across the street. I think I asked Mark about that before. I think he said yes. But that's an interesting one. Should they? Because Kelleher could say, you know what, I don't know if he's going to add much, But it'd be interesting to see. I think personally I want to see it because I know the guy from Bridgewater State, I personally like Tommy Kelleher. He was always a good guy to me at Bridgewater. And I talked to a lot of my old classmates. They like him. I've never heard anyone of any of my old classmates like say shitty shit about him, like especially now. I think I remember one guy that I hung around with didn't like him. I can't remember why, honestly. But everyone else that I still talk to, they say, we like Kelleher. They all like Kelleher. So that's just from my classmates that I graduated with from Bridgewater State. But I'd be interested to see if he testifies, if they bring him up at the stand. KH4999. Wow. Thank you so much, KH. You are extra generous. I love the 49.99. Wow. Thank you all for keeping up the pressure and helping to shed light on the issues surrounding this case. Free Karen Reed. Thank you, KH, for supporting us and keeping us going over here. You don't even know. There are forces that have been trying to shut us down for the last couple of years. I probably have a little more to say about that pretty soon. Thank you for the donation. It helps keep us going. Dr. Russell Gass, 499, says, on Karen's phone thread, Texas Truth Fairy sent another $9.99. Thank you so much, Texas Truth Fairy. You're very generous. That's your second dono tonight. I really love that. Thank you. Jill Natori, how am I saying that? Nataro said $9.99. She says, the jury also can't see the blood down the front of the hoodie in the plexiglass. Would never happen if he was hit and unresponsive after. So crazy. Amazing show tonight. I know, right? There's a lot wrong with that plexiglass. Great point, Joe. That's probably why they're using it, right? Texas Tooth Fairy again says perhaps they had him read the text messages to prove he was biased. What are your all thoughts? That's exactly it. That was my number one thought listening to that today. And then Bederow went through all the different reasons why that was good, and that was his final, the final reason. He had like 4 or 5 of them. It's exactly it. I mean, that is the biggest takeaway, is that here is somebody that has a motive. In writing, in text. And they're showing you on video. And you don't even consider it? You're not even familiar with the text. I think that said it all to the jury today. I think that was the most impressive thing so far from the defense, going through all the witnesses. That's why I think today was so big for the defense, why I'm so pumped up today. Janice Vetter, I love that, Vetter. She says, how does it look that most of Karen Reed's witnesses are experts rather than character or people that were present during the incidents? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it hurts her. Like, who were most of the witnesses for the prosecution? They're either cops or they're McAlberts, right? I mean, yeah. I don't, I don't think that hurts her at all. I don't. And in the end, it doesn't matter about character witnesses. What matters is the facts. I mean, I'm sure Karen, I've met a lot of people that grew up with Karen and friends of Karen, especially at some of the fundraisers. She has a whole network of people that love her. That there was that one party that we went to that was full of her friends and family. And they love her. They grew up with her. They've known her for a long time. So she, if she wanted to, I'm sure she could have some type of character witnesses, but they just weren't there that night, and these weren't her friends. I mean, I think if anything, it helps her case to show that, the reason they pointed at her is because she's not in their clique. She's not their friend. So I don't think that hurts her at all. And I think that the expert witnesses and the facts of the case, that trumps anything. That trumps, it doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter even what Karen said. What matters is that she didn't hit John. And they have Arca there saying, hey, car didn't hit her. He didn't hit John O'Keefe. I mean, that trumps everything. So in the end, I don't think any of that matters. I appreciate the super chat and you bringing it up, though. Thank you, Janice. Also, Melissa sent $9.99. She said, I read in Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly that a former judge said that Jackson's opening statement was an improper golden rule argument and the judge should call a mistrial. They used U.S. versus Palma. I don't even know what the hell that means. I wonder what the golden rule is. I'll have to look that one up. Let's look it up right now. Now you piqued my curiosity. The hell is the golden rule? Golden rule. Let's see what that is. Golden rule. Massachusetts. I'll just say Massachusetts court. Okay, I see it. I found the story. Well, let's see if I can get through all the windows. Yeah, they're blocking me. Come on, let me see it. All right, hold on. Oh, they blocked me out of the story. I gotta join, I guess. Okay, so it's an argument that improperly asked jurors to put themselves in the position of any person involved in the case. I don't know. What are they going to do? Appeal it? They're going to call a mistrial? Well, that's probably the best thing the prosecution ever get is a mistrial, I guess. Dave said that. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll take a look at that more, Melissa, about that the golden rule. Dave sent $5 and said, "Is Spanky somewhat protected in terms of reputation because he could say, hey, this was a crap, unwinnable case, and the investigation was horrible?" I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think that definitely it doesn't hurt his reputation because the case was horrible. But I think what does hurt his reputation is that he was still willing to put someone in jail and ruin their life, knowing that there was no case. You know what I mean? Like, so, and for what? Because so he could get $1 million, and he's willing to not let Arca testify, all the shady stuff he's done. So I think his reputation is hurt because of his actions in the courtroom. Not so much that he took on a case that wasn't winnable. If it wasn't winnable, you shouldn't have prosecuted, right? So I think his reputation is going to be hurt for a number of reasons. Well, I mean, I wouldn't trust the guy. Between you and me, I wouldn't hire him to walk my dog. I know he's not a dog walker, but you know what I'm saying. If I need some legal defense, I'm not calling Hank Brennan. I'm not. I got a lot of people I'd call before Hank Brennan. Strong Leg 1971 sent $20 and said the difference between Bederow and Steinbeck being prosecution and Brennan, Mark, and Carl were for justice and honesty. Amen. Isn't that it? I mean, that's why I get so happy about having them on my show. And here's two guys who were former prosecutors, criminal defense attorneys, and that's what I think about when I think of them. When I think about Carl Steinbeck, I think about someone who cares about justice. The same thing with Bederow. You know, even Bederow posted today or yesterday about someone that had an immigration problem. He helped them out. They want to be a doctor, a woman. I mean, you could tell that's all he loves that shit. He just loves helping people get justice. Anna Jasky sent 1999 says while rewatching B. Albert's testimony from last trial, looked down a lot for several seconds at times and was reading something on his phone, in my opinion. Like text messages. You guys notice anything? Carl and Bederow together love. I know, right? I don't know. I suppose it's possible. Maybe he even kept a couple notes. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of times people will look down or look to the side when they're thinking, when they're in their head thinking about what story they're going to come up with. So it could be that. It could have a tick. I don't know. I don't think he's cheating. I don't. I think he's experienced enough that he probably doesn't need that. Nancy M sent 199. Great discussion as always. Great show, Mike. Thanks. Thank you so much, Nancy M. Coexist 2020 sent $5. Said, what about the fact that Allie said that she took Colin home because he wasn't there when John was there? Slip up or mistake? I know, right? I don't think any of that's going to come in this time. You know, I don't think Allie McCabe is going to be on the stand. And I don't think Colin is either. This seems like it's going to be a much shorter trial this time. It's funny because last time the prosecution brought all the witnesses out, the witnesses went on and on and on and on and on. And last time it was the defense that only had like, I don't know, was it 2 or 3 days of testimony? It was like 5, it was like the expert witnesses and we're done because they thought they won the case. This time it seems like the defense is adding a lot more witnesses that they're going to have on the stand versus the prosecution who are going to have a lot less witnesses than they had the first trial. That's really going to be, I think, the biggest difference this time. Thank you so much. I am not proficient enough. M. Hallett, Free Karen Reed. What a great show and panel. Yes, it was. It really was tonight. The right flux sent $2 Canadian says fat Commonwealth loses, but still ruin the girl Karen Reed's money. I know, right? I mean, that's the thing. They're still punishing her. All the stress she's had. She hasn't had a license. She hasn't had a car. She's lost all that money. She's lost all that work. Her career is. It sucks. It's all about the ratty. Set 1999 and says, "Good Almighty, I love Bederow. If anyone I know ever is in serious trouble, they will be hearing from me. Better call Bederow, especially if you're in New York. I mean, that's if you're in New York City and you're in any type of criminal issue, that is the first guy you call, Mark Bederow. Queens, Brooklyn. You have any issues in Queens and Brooklyn? Like Diddy should have called Bederow. I'm not trying to help Diddy though, so I should be quiet. I don't want to help Diddy, but seriously, Bederow. That's who I would have called if I was Diddy. Latin Negra, and that says 1999. It says Carl or Mark, can the defense file a motion to introduce evidence when Morrissey said in the video that Michael Proctor was the lead investigator? Since we know that none of crooks are going to admit. I mean, I don't know if they need to file a motion to introduce evidence. They introduce evidence all the time, you know? Like they're going to bring out the Sallyport video. That's going to be evidence. So, yeah, I think that they can. I don't think they need a motion to provide evidence unless there's specific evidence that's being excluded. Then maybe they do a motion, but I don't see that. So I think they're pretty good with the evidence. I think they're going to be able to get the evidence they want in. Thank you, Latin Negra. Janice Vetter, Vettr, says, it's crazy. Thank you. Thank you so much for the donation tonight. DI in Medfield sent $20. It says, great to listen to attorneys break down the day's events to make the layperson understand. Do you think the jury can pick up what AJ is putting down? Sometimes I think he needs to dumb it down a bit. I mean, I think you always have to dumb it down, unfortunately, for the general public. But I think they're picking it up. I think they're picking up, I think you can't underestimate people being able to pick up emotions and body language. I think all of us subconsciously pick it up, and you could tell when someone's being truthful or evasive or cocky. I think that's universal, and I think people definitely got the inference that Buchanan, whatever you want to call him, was cocky today. He didn't want to answer the questions. He was even giving them guff about yes or no questions. And I think that comes through. And I think it also comes through in the text messages while this guy's reading them that he ignored all this, that he ignored that there was a love triangle here. And that the love triangle was really Brian Higgins. That Karen Reed really didn't seem to have too much interest in him. It was really Brian Higgins upset, right? So I think that came through crystal clear today. And that the state police ignored it all. Usually what you do, from my understanding, is when you investigate crimes like this, is you create a list of potential suspects and then you go and exclude them. They didn't even include Higgins as a suspect ever. So how could they exclude him? And I think that point comes right through to the jury. The only thing that the only thing I'm frustrated with is that they didn't let Michael Easter in to really drill down. Can you imagine what the FBI expert Michael Easter would have been able to do with all of this? And that's another question. I just wonder if the defense comes back and tries to bring up Michael Easter. I also wonder if they try another motion to dismiss. I'm guessing not, because this judge never goes for that stuff. So why waste your time when you're already winning? Probably just focus on your upcoming witnesses is what I'm guessing. But who knows, right? Great comments. Thank you so much, DI in Medfield. I want to thank Liz Tarr. I wonder if she's related to Frank Tarr. She became a YouTube member tonight. Thank you so much, Liz Tarr. Kathleen said $4.99 says more weird to me is Higgins asking about where seatbelts Sandra was hung by a belt. Interesting comment. Cindy sent $5. Thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you, Carolyn. Sent $10 tonight. She says, what was the jurisdiction vibe shift after lunch? Could have bosses have talked to him and told him to cut the crap. He seemed much more straightforward, possibly. Maybe Brennan even said it. I don't know. Good question. Becca said $4.99 says, how will the Commonwealth be able to call the dog expert of their expert? Can't even establish that Cora is actually Chloe, aka the same dog the Alberts had. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they actually let in on that. And you know what's going to be interesting to see Garrett Wing too, the defense expert, the canine expert. High Priest Garbagool said $4.99 says, I want the defense to call Julia Albert so that she says Bukaki in court in front of the jury again. I remember at one point, I think Bukaki was referring to Bukaki today in a weird way. It's funny. I just wonder what he thinks about that. He must be upset. I mean, I wouldn't want to be called it. Shoshana Grace sent $4.99 says, I wonder if Buchanan refused prepping. His ego seems big enough to feel he didn't need it. Good point. I also wonder if Brennan preps any of these witnesses. Because that seems to be the pattern, that all these witnesses are unprepared. It seems like Brennan is unprepared. He seems just generally sloppy, honestly. Seems like he really relies on just, hiding evidence and being a bully. I mean, that's basically seems like his go-to, more than prepping witnesses. So I wonder if he prepped any of them. American Gator sent $19.99, I believe, to Carl tonight on his YouTube stream. Says, what do you think about Bev's little comment to Alan about, is he going to make him read all the text in front of the jury and called a sidebar? She didn't say a peep in the first trial when prosecution did it. Well, I think that's why her change of demeanor after that break, right? I think the defense read her the riot act, and it's totally unprofessional. And this is what this judge does all the time, editorializing. This is ridiculous. I mean, I am no lawyer. I am not a judge. I'm not on any of those. And I know better not to do that. This is common sense. I don't know how this judge can continue to editorialize like that. And especially when she lets the prosecution do this shit and then takes it out on the defense when they do the same. Ridiculous. You're right. Absolutely right, Amerigata. I love that nickname. Carolyn sent $5, said, should the defense have Proctor as their last witness? That's the question. Should it be the first? Should it be the last? That's a good point. I think you're right. I think you're onto something. Bring up Archer in the beginning. Bring the experts up, right? Then bring up Brian Tully and Brian Albert and Sean... Matt McCabe, excuse me. I was going to say Sean McCabe. Matt McCabe. And then Proctor at the end. That is probably... I think you're onto something, Kelly. That might be the way to end this trial for the defense. Bring up Proctor, last witness. Have him... Imagine that your last witness, the last 10 minutes is him reading the text where he's calling Karen all kinds of crap. I think you're onto something. I think that may be the way they end the trial. D. Rock Limestone. Opening statement from AJ mentioned the busy bees on the 29th. You need to seal that statement during closing by calling Higgins, Proctor, Alberts, etc. I think so. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to call Proctor. They're going to call the Alberts. They're going to call Higgins. Kim Mathias said 199 says Yuri is misreading the room. Thinks he is cool, not. I know, right? He's totally misread the room. And misread all the people watching him at home. I mean, that's my one question, too, is like, you would think that if it was me and I'm like a professional witness for the state police, I would have watched my first trial and said, hey, how did I do good? How did I not do good? And I'd ask other people in my life maybe to watch it too and say, hey, get a little coaching. That's how we get better on these YouTube shows. We watch ourselves and say, oh shit, I talked over that guest too much, or I'm gesturing too much, or I'm spazzing out, whatever it is. You kind of you got to watch your video. You got to watch your tape. You got to get better. That's what we used to do in radio too, right? You listen to your air call. You listen to your voice on the show. I don't see that he did any of that. It seemed like he got even worse this time. You would think he would watch it. You would think that he might even watch like yesterday, and adjusted from there. And maybe he's just too arrogant. Kathleen sent 199 said, why did Albert's jackhammer out the basement? No idea. Amar Valesi says, who gives away a dog? Murderers, probably. Thank you, Amar Valesi. Jody is one of the organizers of the North Shore Karen Reed fundraiser the other night. She says, it's raining men on your show tonight, Mike. Yeah, right? It was raining men tonight. I'm going to have to dance then. Anytime it's raining men comes out on a dance floor at a Karen Reed fundraiser and I'm there, I am dancing away. I'm giving high fives. That was so much fun. Thank you for having that great fundraiser. I'm glad to support it, promote it, and attend and dance at it. It was so much fun. Thank you for doing that, Jody. Thank you for the super chat tonight, too. Mama, she 13 says 11,000 in chat, less than 5,000 likes. We could do better. Please hit the like, y'all. It's free. I hope we have more than that. I want to see us try to break 7,000 likes tonight. The biggest likes I think we've had was just over 6,000. I want to try to get to 7 tonight. Let's see if we can get to 7. I'll check after. We may already be there. Mr. Monk's understudy says, exciting news about buffer zone win. Thanks to Mark Randazza. Yeah, and thank you to his junior attorneys as well. I've been actually speaking to one of them about some other issues. Congratulations to Randazza. That was so good. I'm so happy about that. That makes me personally happy. I feel like I'm going to be able to go down there and record video again and not get harassed by the Massachusetts State Police. Amanda the sent $2 and said, thank you. Thank you so much, Amanda the. Brenda S. sent $10. She says, was explained to Dinner Companion why I am so invested. One reason, because I could be Karen. My heart is with her and those fighting for her. Bless you, Mike. I know that's why so many of us care. It could be any of us. It could be any of our family members. This is the state we're in, unfortunately. And it's not fair to Karen. Karen has been a law-abiding, good citizen her whole life, done everything right, gone to college, got a good job, good career, treated people nicely. And to go through this, it's just not right. Suzanne, member for 11 months, said, fantastic show tonight. I mean, that is another thing I bring up, too, about Karen is I'm happy to support Karen because it's Karen. Karen is so strong through this. She's just bring it on, Like, when you have someone that you're backing like that, it makes it easy. It really does. So that's one of the reasons I am so invested is because of who Karen is. And her family, too. And all those supporters. Jane Pfeiffer sent $4.99, says, tell the CLE attorney there is a free Karen Reed Turtle Boy standout June 1st, 11 to 1 at the northeast corner of Tappan Square, Oberlin, Ohio. Details Justice Facebook page. Wow. Well, I didn't know that. Well, we got a attorney coming on tomorrow night who is an Ohio guy. Maybe he'll check that out. Oberlin, Ohio. That's very cool. June 1st. I hope people show up to that. If you're in Ohio, check it out. Thank you for the donation tonight. Kara became a new YouTube member. Thank you, Kara. Welcome to the Jerks. Carolyn sent $2. She says, who do we think did a better job, Lally or Brennan? Oh, it really depends. I think Brennan does a better job in terms of what Carl said tonight, hiding evidence. But I think Lally is a little more maybe honest than Brennan. That's the way I feel. In a strange way, though, I think Lally actually may have done a better job. I mean, we'll see. We'll see over the next few weeks, but I don't think Brennan's doing a good job. I thought at first he was kind of doing a good job, but not so much now. B. Crumb sent $20. Says, she's a troll, Mike. I recognize the name. Thank you. Of course she's a troll. You're talking about the all caps one I put up tonight? Yeah. Or the other one? Yeah, there was a couple of them. Probably trolls. You know what? I love when the trolls send me money. It's like the funniest shit ever. Like they so want to be acknowledged, they'll send me money to get acknowledged. It's so flattering that they send money to get acknowledged. I love that. Please, trolls, keep sending me money. I love it. I love when they send me money to get acknowledged. Oh man. Siobhan Mann said $4.99 and said, my theory on Chloe, she changed her name and is in witness protection. Chloe's hanging out in Santa Monica. She's on the beach. She's got a new name. She's got some sunglasses on. She got a nose job. She's totally unrecognizable. She's hanging out with Whitey. I'm not gonna say that. That's a She's hanging out with Whitey on the French Riviera. Betty sent $19.99, a super sticker. Wow, thank you so much. Betsy. Glamour Sue sent another $5. She said, Yuri said that Karen's car was snow covered. It was clear when it was pulled into the Sally Port. Yuri lied. Surprise. I know, right? Or he didn't know what he was talking about. I mean, either way. Almost Unicorn said $4.99, says John O'Keefe was trash inside BA home. Stumbled out and passed out on lawn. Phone calls all night asking if he still there. Then why not just say that? If that's actually what happened, why not just say that? The dude was shit-faced. Right? I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. No. That would be an out for all of them, right? And especially if he didn't it's one thing if you're a homeowner and the person's been drinking at your house all night and then you're liable because they're shit-faced, right? But if he was drinking somewhere else first, got drunk there and only had a sip of a beer at your house you wouldn't even have any liability at all, I don't think. I'm not a lawyer on that type of stuff, the homeowners, but also the homeowners insurance, everyone has it. Yeah, I'm not buying that. I don't think that's any chance it happened that way, almost a unicorn. I don't even like to speculate on what really happened to John because we don't know. The one thing I always like to bank on is that we know that Karen didn't hit him. And that's all that really matters to me. Dr. Russell Gasp sent $9.99, says, I think Higgy got excited with crossing Sword and John O'Keefe, according to a text where I think he thought Karen was game. Swinger theory. I know it's very strange. He was asking, does John know about this? Maybe he just thought he was going to get a little action, But it seemed like more than that. It seemed like it seemed like she hurt his heart when he got ghosted. Like when I read those texts and hear those texts, it brings me back to when I was a freshman, sophomore, maybe a junior in high school with girls. That's what it reminded me of. It was like I don't think I've talked to a girlfriend or a romantic interest in this way where since like junior high or high school, right? I mean, that's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel like a mature conversation. It felt like Karen was constantly like trying to bring it back to normal. He's always asking these weird, like deep questions. Like Bobby LaBelle sent $4.99 says, "Will AJ try the angle John found out about Higgins and Karen? Went to confront him at the house. Fight happens and Higgins killed John." See, this is something that definitely could have happened, Bobby. But I don't think Jackson's really going to go there because I don't think he really has to. All he has to do at this point is show that Higgins had an interest in Karen and that Higgins had some type of MO, that he had a motive. Not that he did it, not that the motive was, strong enough to want to kill John, but it's possible. And the fact that the state police didn't even consider it says a lot. And I think that's all that they need. And I think that's all that Jackson's going to probably drive through and the defense team is the fact that the state police had another person that they could have investigated and they chose not to. And why? Because he was an ATF agent. Because he was in the homeowner's house who was a Boston police officer related to a Canton police officer. I mean, that's all they need. I don't think they need to get into all the specifics about what they think might have happened. They just need to show what did happen. What did happen is that Higgins was hurt. Higgins' feelings got hurt by Karen. And he was texting both Karen and John that night. So I think that's all he needs to show. I mean, I think there's going to be some inference to what you're saying, to that theory, and I think it totally is plausible. But I don't think Jackson really needs to flesh it out like that, if you see what I'm saying. Great questions, great comments. I want to thank everyone for super chat and sticking with me. I still see like 6,000 of you, 5,780 watching on YouTube right now. We still got a good crowd on Facebook and still a couple people on Twitch, a lot of people on X. Thank you so much for watching me tonight and supporting. I missed one. Which one did I miss? Which one did I miss? You got to let me know. I missed one. Who did I miss? No one wants to leave. You just want to keep me here, like going through them all? From Glamassus. Oh, Glamassus had a lot of super chats tonight. I love it. Let me see. Glamassus right before the one you just read. Okay, let's go back to that one. Not this one. All right, hold on. Is it this one? Yuri said that Karen's car was snow covered. It was clear when it was pulled into the Sally. No, I read that one. I think I got them all. I don't know. Play the Twitch clip. I don't even know what. I don't have a Twitch clip. I don't know. What do you mean? Oh, just a comment, not a super chat? Oh man, I need to go. I don't need to read any more non-super chat comments, even though I'm still reading them. I've had enough comments tonight. You know what I'm gonna do? I want to drive through the Yuri testimony. I think I'm just gonna step aside and play it. If you guys want it, since so many of you are here, let's keep it going. Let's just keep Yuri on the stand for a little longer and just enjoy. So many of you still watching. Some of you in the chat tonight said you didn't get to watch it today. You wanted to watch it. You're hoping we played clips tonight. I think we're just going to close it by just playing more Yuri for the rest of the night. What do you think? Oh, crossing swords. Yeah. Yeah, you want to see it at 3-speed? That may be a little much. Maybe 1.5. You want to do it at 3-speed? I might. I don't know. We'll see. Well, I like watching him struggle with these texts. I enjoy it. There's something pleasurable about it. Let's bring it up. There we go. Let's bring up Judge Bev when she comes back after the break, after she totally dissed the defense. This is Judge Bev.
Do you want me to start at the beginning or
No.
I call this, look at her. No, big smile on her face. This is Judge Bev's final stand. Look at the smile on her face. She thinks she's so clever here. She thinks.
Let's just start where, I'm sorry, start where you ended, if you could, please. All right, could we turn the lights down? Can you see it,
Can you
Sergeant, with the
see
lights
it?
off?
Can you
Yes,
see
Your Honor.
it?
Okay, thank you.
I just don't give my personal number to anyone. How would Carrie have my number? Melissa had it. I actually don't know if Carrie does. Just felt like everyone had it. Haha. I knew she did. Sorry you felt neglected. Haha. So no dice on the Smirnoff? I have not tried it. Saw it in the store the other day and thought of you. I laughed out loud. Don't give Carrie my digits. Thought of me and everyone's grandfather. I won't give your digits to anyone. You don't like Carrie? I have no issues with Carrie. Just don't want her having my jack. Saving you as Karen, screwdriver, or weed whacker. Need to think about it a little. I'd prefer weed whacker. That's the think about nicknames. We were tossing around the idea of a short vacay with the current show. Wanted to see if you were game. You don't have a say? Vacation? Where? I know. They need to happen organically. I'm the queen of nicknames. Was just going to rent a beach house in Fort Laud. Something quick and easy. I'm queen of vacays too. Always a good time. I'm going to Nashville next month, 19th through the 21st, for a benefit. One of our guys got shot in the head. You guys should come. So you claim. Advertisement. Jesus, is he alive? Was he from Massachusetts? Yes, he is alive, not from MA. We were thinking late March. I guess the guy in his group is friends with Old Dominion Band. Kid Rock's supposed to be there too. I have a tough time with country. I was a Kid Rock fan back in the day. I agree. Of course you were. From Brockton. LOL. That's how I got my street cred. Funny. I didn't know you had any. LOL. Carrie said you tag along. No one would say that about me. How would I know? We all frequent the same watering hole. I don't know Carrie well. She talks about herself a lot, but I guess so does everyone. I don't ask questions, just make observations, assess, and decide. I am quiet. That's a good policy. You can read most people in a few minutes. Excuse me, mins. Yep, for sure. You go out with last night? Myself. I only had a drink and a half. Sadly, I know everyone at this point. Lame. Why is that bad? BC. That's how much I go in there. What do you do for work? I've never had a problem going to bar/restaurant solo. I go there a little. I'm a college professor. Solo is cool. I was in adjunct previously. Oh, really? Did you mention that? Anna Maria, Quincy College, and BHCC. I teach afternoons and work downtown during the day. What is BHCC? University of Southern Charleston, aka Bunker Hill Community College. Oh, nice. Trust is life. Line from Good Will Hunting in the classroom at BHCC. Funny, a savant from Brockton. I'm not making fun of BHCC. My parents met at community college. Fall River writes, you're very random. How so? You just are. I don't think so. What's random? Haha. I had no idea who this was last night, for a few minutes anyways. I mean, what's random about me? I think I'm pretty predictable. How so? You must go around beeping at a lot of weed whackers, excuse me. Nope, never. It was my one-time thing. Sounds like I'm scattered and all over the place. I learned my lesson. You have your shit together. That was mortifying. I am still really sorry. Not completely, but for the most part, yes. Sure you are. One thing I don't think you was sensitive. When was I sensitive? To the weed whacking incident. I just snapped when I think guys are being creeps. Can't help it. I'm not a creep. No, you're not a creep. Nope. You're kind of a loner, which I used to be. Not really. I have a ton of buddies, but I only let a handful of friends in that I am tight with. So you think you got me figured out? Circle of trust. Yeah, I said loner, not loser. I assume you know a lot of people? You never really can figure anyone out completely. Your dad died when you were young? He died in March of 2020. I am so not a loser. You won't figure me out, LOL. No one is a loser. I just didn't mean loner to imply friendless. I'm sorry, that's recent. It wasn't COVID, was it? Cancer. I know you date girls who don't lock the house behind them, and you arrive private and observant. I'm sorry. What kind? Lung, brain, kidney, and pelvis. How do you know all these things? LOL. You're funny. Yikes, wow. That's rough. Jesus. I'm sorry. We chat a lot at the hillside. Don't be sorry, life is hard sometimes. I always figure it out. Who chats? Life is hard, but losing people is the hardest, so I'm sorry. We chat. That all you got, we chat? Sure, you're from Brockton. Spit it out. You and I chatted about the girl who kept forgetting the door lock. Oh. She has been out of play for like 3 months now. Out of rotation? Nah, just out of play. I am solo, no rotation. I am not a hoe. Solo? Solo, like no rotation, or woman for that matter. Not locked down, haha. Good for you. That's the best way to be. Yep. Has its benefits for sure. Are you working? Remotely. Oh. Tough life. Live like a queen. I just got a Saturday invite. Did you say yes? Not yet, but did respond. What did you say, Mr. Elusive? No, I just don't want to intrude on your couples night. Haha, I am shy. We prefer to hang out with, or W non-couples. Bob Gallery is probably coming too, solo. We'll probably do cards or something at some point. Some PT, excuse me. I'm inviting you, haha. John said, quote, Brian is being wishy-washy now, end quote. Haha. Did you tell him to text me? No. You cranky now? Haha, no. Just stop being so anti-couples. Most couples don't even like each other. Name a few. Name a few. I don't know. All of them? They all want to hang out with single people? I need a drink. I had a blueberry beer. I'm jealous. Hey, I'm trying to menu plan for Saturday, Mr. Elusive. Don't count on me. Boo. Haha. I am sure you will get over it. Just got my first drink. Where? Brick House. You tied one on last night? I was just thinking about you. Haha. Yes, 4:30 a.m. came early this morning. Eek, that's early. You out late with the Commodores? Solo? Yeah, but you're always lining up your after party. Nope, not me. Selective. I am not a hoe. Hey, no judgment. Haha, you make me laugh. I know, I'm funny. Haha. What's on your mind? Nada. Just about to start cooking. Okay. What's on yours? I'm going to a Hillside Regulars 60th tomorrow. This could be a new low for me. Who?
Detective, if I could interrupt 1 second. When there is a date that's delineated, could you just state the date out loud so the jurors follow the date progression?
Next,
Starting with the next one.
I'm saying the next text message date or
Yes, sir.
date within?
Where the
Yes,
above or
absolutely.
below the bubbles.
Yep. So this screen here is Friday, January 13th at 3:33 p.m.
Thank you.
I believe I stopped before Bob Clinton. Everybody can't stand him. I detest him. His breath smells like ass. OMG, always. His daughter and I have mutual friends. I actually don't mind him when he's socially distant. I think he's friendly. Why detest? Yeesh. Talks like an ass clown. Maybe I am being too hard. He just says crazy shit. Doesn't know his audience. Geez. Is he different from anyone else in there? Haha. His wife and daughter are cooler than he is. I like his wife. Never met the daughter. A nurse? Yes. Her fiance is a firefighter. By coincidence with people I grew up with. Crazy. Sunday, January 16th, 12:59 a.m. You're nuts. Foul ball. You stink. You suck. And you're double. Trouble. You're hot. Are you serious or messing with me? No, I'm serious. Feeling is mutual. Is that bad? How long have you thought that? Are you okay driving? You don't want to stay here? I am fine. I have an office at the PD. You didn't answer the question. Rather you stay here? I wish. I think you're messing with me. Why do you think that? Because this is so out of left field. Where did these feelings come from? I just think you're like me. Meaning, do you have your own kids? I have no kids. How am I like you? Hello? Aren't we alike? I think so. So, why did you get my number and reach out to me? Shoot straight with me. I told you, I just think we're alike, right? Yes, agree. Now what? I don't know. Shouldn't you know? Do you like me? Yes, from jump. When was jump? First time I saw you. When was that? Hillside for sure. When were you interested? I don't know. You're just my type. You think you can handle me? I thought you were happy. How do you know if I'm happy? I just assumed. Are you to handle? What do you like about me? I just feel like you're from my neighborhood. Yeah, ditto. And I think you're hot. You really think that? I have always thought that about you. What? That you're hot, smart, witty. But I didn't think you were interested. Witty. Yeah, meaning quick with a response. Tell me why you got my number and reached out to me. Just thought we were the same, from the same neighborhood. Are you afraid to say what's in your mind? On? No. Didn't I? I am glad I stopped by. I should have come earlier. Do you really live in Mansfield? Yeah, I was basically begging you. You don't have to beg. Huh? I will give you whatever you want. How are you texting right now? Ugh. Leaving me hanging. No. Kids? Kinda. How am I texting? Is everyone asleep? I'm just wide awake on my phone. Yes, they are. I should have stayed, LOL. So now what? Yes, you should have. That would have been distracting. So no what? Now. Now what? Ball's in your court. What do you want? Loaded question. What do you want? I asked you. Nope. You initiated this. Spit it out. Hey, we're single and we don't have kids. We can do whatever we want. Don't you have a boyfriend? Where are you? Canton. Where? My office at the PD. Why are you going to Mansfield? Where is that? Canton PD. I have a house there from before I reconnected with John. Oh, I feel like you're not really saying what's on your mind. Do you like me? Yes, clearly. Come over to my house. When? When works for you? Whoever, whenever. When works for you? I asked you first. I think you're messing with me. I'm glad you came over tonight. Me too. Ball's in your court. What do you want, Karen? You look great tonight. I don't know. What do you want? You always do. Yeesh, really? Why? I look great? You're full of it. I think you're hot. I always have thought that. Just have not revealed my thoughts. I'm hot for the hillside. Low comps. Knock it off. You're hot, period. Are you glad you walked me out? Yes. Are you? Def. Yes. Are you going home tonight or tomorrow AM? We kissed, right? Is this a trick question? I don't know when I'm going home. I am selling my house. What a trick question. Are you moving to Canton? I am following your lead with this. I live here, but I have a property in Enfield. Why my lead? I don't want any responsibility. You started this, right? Why did you get my number and each out to me? Still have not told me. Sorry, should I not have? I am fine with it. Just don't know why you can't answer. You're mad at me? OMG. No, not at all. You're being silly. I told you. I just think you're like me, and I am attracted to you a lot. Feelings mutual. I just never saw this coming. Why? Because I just assumed you were happy with your situation. I was, but things have deteriorated. Why? How so? What did Melissa say when you asked for my number? It is very, very complicated. He and I dated when we were kids, and then his sister died, and everything got fucked up. He seemed very into you. I just told Melissa that I had your number, but lost it. That's cute. She wasn't suspicious? No, she's great. Does she know you like me? She's a sweetie. We just agreed that you're great. What does that mean? I was jealous that she had your number. Look, like you're either all in or you're out. Why would you be jealous? I am not attracted to her at all. I have always been attracted to you. Really? Yes. Since the first time I saw you, we would have fun. Where are you? I told you, Canton PD, my office. So are you selling your place and moving to Meadows? Yeah, but where is that? I have had all my shit here for a couple of years, and my house has been vacant. But I'd like to get closer to the water. Are you breaking up or staying together? I don't know. He hooked up with another girl on vacation. I am very close to his niece. It is a very fucked up situation. When was that? And how did you find out he hooked up? I don't want to complicate your situation. We went away for New Year's, the four of us. I put the kids to bed and found him in the lobby of our hotel, all over one of our friends. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It does matter. Did they bang? Does that matter? Sorry, I was just asking. I was just trying to figure shit out. It doesn't really matter. Okay, I won't ask again. I don't care.
Carl needs to do a live stream right now. We're still streaming on his channel as well. If you want to watch more of that, you can definitely do so. But let's all go check out Carl Steinbeck. I think he's going to do a live show in a few minutes. So I'm going to end it tonight. If you want to watch the rest of this, you can find it on our channel. I know the chat won't be there. There won't be as many people, but you can definitely watch the rest of this. I thought this was phenomenal today. And looking forward to Monday. I'll see you tomorrow, Saturday, 1:30. Got a new attorney, Sean, who's going to be on the show tonight. New for our show, anyway. He's got a channel, Potentially Criminal. He'll be live on the Young Jerks tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. I will see you then. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you again so much for supporting and watching. We'll see you tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be checking out Carl Steinbeck. Check out his chat tonight. I think he's doing a show as well. Maybe see you over there in his chat. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Oh, no. Let me end the stream now.